Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of art. It's the Tenant Podcast. I'm Todd Pearson, coming to you from the 40 West Arts District in Lakewood, Colorado, and joining me from his art lair on the Road of Enchantment. You know him as quite possibly the most interesting man in the world, my partner and friend, Wes Brown.
Todd, how you doing? Oh my God, another week. This last weekend was a long weekend. I know we're kind of recording this early. We like to cut it close, but man, I don't think I talked to you the whole weekend, and I had like Todd withdrawals. So
I had some Wes withdrawals, I gotta admit. Like, I kind of wondered what you were up to, but at the same time, I was gonna, be present in what I was doing this weekend. And so I didn't reach out to you, but I reached out to you today.
Well, sometimes you need a Wes detox too. So I think that's always good.
Yeah,
get a couple days
I feel
off.
A little lighter.
Yeah, but my wife probably
took a lot of showers this weekend. Yeah.
Anytime you have
I drank a lot of water.
That'll help. Showers and
lemon.
Water. Yeah.
Yeah. How's my skin look?
It looks good.
I de-Westified.
That's right. That rash is cleared up.
Yes.
Oh my God. How you doing, my friend?
You, I am doing very well.
Good.
Happy to see you. Had a wonderful weekend.
Good.
This week I'm batching it. Nice. It's just me and the dog. And this is the first time, I think, pre-COVID, that it's just been me and the dog in the house. And that was a very strange scenario for me because I'm just used to having like all my family members around. But my kids are off doing their own thing. My wife is traveling for work. So it was just me and the dog.
How's Petey handling?
Me and Petey. He was kind of mopey today.
Was he?
He's kind of a mopey dog when he doesn't get his way. Yeah. And but I'll give him some love later.
There you go.
Yep.
Spoon the puppy. Watch a movie.
I do like spooning that puppy. He's a good dog.
Although he's not really a puppy anymore, but
no, he's an old man. He's actually older than me now.
In dog years?
In dog years, yeah.
Holy crap. He is old.
Yep.
He's not quite my age though yet, is he?
No, I think he's in between you and I.
All right. Good for him.
Yep. So we're just enjoying every day that we have because I know he's getting up there.
Yes, he is. He's no spring chicken, as they say. Nope. So, but we love Petey. He's a great dog. Give him a big hug from me.
I will. From Uncle Wes. You can give it to him
on Saturday.
Give it to him soon. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Have you heard about this thing called art?
I have. Kind of vaguely.
Vaguely?
Just kind of, on the
What do you
surface.
think about it? I think it's fantastic myself.
I think it's really interesting, and it's done so many different ways. I'm looking forward how it's done tonight.
I am too. So let's talk some art.
Let's talk it.
We are excited to talk with our next guest. Super excited, actually. He is an internationally collected fine artist, philanthropist, and event planner. You can check out his work at his website, Christopher La Fleur arts.com, and you can follow him on Instagram at christopher.lafleur.arts. Christopher, how are you?
I'm freaking awesome. This is going to be great. You guys are hilarious. I'm trying not to laugh over here.
Laughing is okay.
Great to see you. Last time I saw you and met you was at Bit Factory back in June, I believe, for the Us exhibition, and I got to experience your work for the first time. And had a lovely chat, although it was kind of brief because it was opening night and you had other people to talk with. Thoroughly enjoyed that show. And we talked about getting you on the podcast and you were agreeable to it. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
You've been an artist all your life, it sounds like, but you've really gone all in the last 5 years as far as making it a business. Is that correct?
That is very correct. Yeah. I was drawing about the same time that I was learning how to read.
Oh, early.
Yeah. And I can tell you, I much prefer drawing to reading. That's for sure.
Not a big fan of reading, or just at that time?
Oh, it's so hard to focus. I have terrible ADHD, and reading a book is agony for me. So very difficult.
Interesting. So you were one of those kids that was always busy with their hands. Their mind was always going doing stuff.
100%, 100%. Bless my parents.
And they were encouraging of your artistic endeavors?
Well, first and foremost, I told my dad I was going to do this. He's going to listen. So, hey, Dad, thank you so much for listening. This is awesome. I love my dad. And yes, he was encouraging, not in the ways that I would have expected, but he was encouraging as a dad, for sure. He always encouraged us to just be 100%, do it all the way or don't do it at all. Show up. My dad he was a great influence.
Right.
Sounds like you were very close to them.
Yeah, I think we're fairly close now. I hope he would say the same, for sure.
We should call him up and have him on the podcast.
Oh man, he would get a hoot out of that.
I bet.
He would love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So what was the catalyst for you to decide that this was what you were going to do, that you were going to make money, even though you've been doing art your entire life, that you were going to make money with your art and do this as a business?
This is a great story. I was in marketing and events. I was traveling 4 weeks, out of every month, going all over the state and all over the country, repping products. And I had a team of boys and girls, and they went around with me, and we were getting the word out about, protein bars or beverages or all these things. It was always life on the road. And I was very fortunate. I didn't know it at the time, but I was very fortunate to get laid off from that job right before Christmas.
Oh my
and
God.
I know, right? Some decency, guys. January 1st, at least.
Yeah.
But they were really great about it. And they gave me this severance. And I'd never gotten a severance before. I was like, okay, cool, big check. But I was also miserable. Marketing, business, life in general. You make a lot of money, but the time you put in, it just kills you. And at that time, I couldn't do it anymore. And I had 6 months worth of funds. And I thought, okay, if I can't do this in 6 months, then what am I even doing with my life? And I incorporated my business and just decided I was going to make art and get out there.
That's incredible. I love that idea. I mean, I love that. I got 6 months of money and I'm going to make this happen. And if it doesn't happen, you're going to reevaluate, like, what am I doing here? And I love that
Yes.
Because the beautiful thing about the severance, it gave you latitude to do what you wanted to do without, sleeping in your car initially and all that kind of stuff. But yet it allowed you, or it forced you to kind of, like, you only had 6 months and you had to make some shit happen, right? It forced you to kind of produce in a sense.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I had a fire under my ass like none other because, living alone in your 20s and you're like, okay, I've got all these bills and I'm a young person. I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to fall on my face. And I want to support myself doing this. So yeah, I quickly, it wasn't just a learning curve of starting a business. It was also putting systems in place where in your early years, you have to be a volume producer. You have to get as much work out the door to feed yourself as you can. So it was kind of a crash course in business that I never really got with my degree. You had to hit it running.
So what was your degree in?
I went to school for international business and finance with a minor in economics.
Oh, wow. You would have thought that would have set you up as a business, but maybe it was too broad and not specific enough in what you're doing now, or how did that not play into what you're doing?
Oh, I mean, we're talking super high level stuff, Wes. We're talking, how international economies work and, debt to ratio things. And it was very much more nation to nation macro level. It was not on the micro scale. And business, I have to tell you, I just fell flat on my face. I can't balance books to save my life. And I didn't do very well in school. So,
well, that totally makes sense, though. The whole macro or, the high level business as opposed to, like you said, the in the weeds, grassroots, everyday kind of business. So entrepreneurial kind of stuff. But yeah, interesting.
Right.
What made you choose that path as opposed to, obviously, art is at the heart of who you are, as opposed to pursuing art school or a degree in art?
That's a great question, actually. And this is where we can kind of circle back to this beginning question. Was my dad supportive? Was my family supportive? My dad was very supportive in that he wanted me to go to school, get a degree, but he's also a pragmatist. And I was always, as a kid, I wanted to make art. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to do anything creative. And he was very firm about, you need to go to school and you need to do something practical. You need a foundation to start from. And so in that sense, he was incredibly supportive. And he's also, I have to tell you, he's a badass. He's a hard worker, worked his whole life and really kind of instilled this workhorse sort of work ethic in me. And so to have that kind of support and to have a role model who's going, you need to be disciplined. You need to clock in. You need to hold yourself to a standard and get out there and be serious. That was very much his influence, was going to school, get a degree, learn something you can use forever.
Yeah, like most parents, right? They want the best for their kids. And when you're talking, an art degree or art school, sometimes it's hard for parents to wrap their head around that a little bit, I think. They're like, I don't want you to be the starving artist, right?
100%. Oh my God. Yeah. I heard that a lot. I got that a lot. But I mean, honestly, as where I am in my career now, this may be taboo, kick me off the podcast now, but I actively kind of discourage folks from going to art school. I meet a lot of young people and I talk to a lot of young people. I think there's a time and a place for art school, but would it have been my best personal path? Probably not. Is it the best path or option for a lot of talented, young people out there? Probably not. I think art school has a lot of blind spots. They teach you the fundamentals and they really beat it into you to kind of have quality and a level of execution. But where they leave young talents behind is preparing them for the real world. There aren't a lot of art schools out there who, they don't teach the business of art. They don't teach basic negotiation classes or how to break down a gatekeeper. Everybody wants to be in a gallery, but how do you actually approach one? And that's kind of the big blind spot I have with art school, personally.
Yeah. I think you're in good company with us. I think what art school allows you to experience a lot of times, not all of them maybe, but is if you love art, but you don't really have a path, some of them allow you to kind of, dabble in a lot of different things because you take life drawing classes and you take sculpture classes and you get to feel like, oh, this is kind of what I like. And, oh, wait a minute, this is really cool. Or how can I implement this into what I'm doing? What I was doing last semester, so it gives you that, but you're exactly right. It doesn't give you the day-to-day nuts and bolts of running an art business. So I think and Todd, I think would agree.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think it's imperative. And after 170 episodes, Wes, I think we're both in agreement that it's not essential that you go to art school and that everybody does this thing differently. There's no right or wrong. It's just what works for you.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Did you grow up here in Colorado?
Yeah. So I grew up here in Colorado. I was born in California. We moved here when I was 2 during the oil and gas boom. And I lived in Aurora back when it was really rough and tumble. I've seen 4 versions of Denver now. It's amazing how it's grown up. But then after elementary school, my parents wanted a home. They wanted to get out of the city. And so we moved on up to northern Colorado in Greeley. And that's really where I did my adolescence, my growing up was up there in Greeley.
How was that growing up in Greeley?
Oh God, man. It's a great place to be from. That's the highest praise I have for Greeley. It's, I guess for listeners who haven't been there, it's very rural. It's, on Thursdays, they would render the cattle up there, big, cattle farms for miles and miles. And so on Thursdays, they would boil the blood and the whole town smelled like cattle and manure. And it's not the best experience, I would personally say.
Did you have great art teachers growing up in Greeley? Were they encouraging you as far as your artistic path at all?
Yes. So the other crucial piece here about Greeley is that it's very, very conservative. And as a kid, I was just the most glorious little gay kid that there ever was. And I was very out there and didn't fit in at all with my peers. And so in this sort of environment, you get bullied a lot, you get hit a fair number of times. And You have to grow up really fast, or you have to find a place to call refuge. And that was art class for me. I literally, any extracurricular that I could take that had to do with art class, I would take it. Um, I would spend, my lunches in the art room, and I'd be working on art projects and talking to my teachers. I loved creative writing, and I would spend a lot of time there. I can actually, Miss McEwen and Miss Vike were my middle school art teachers and English teachers. So I have great memories of art school, being in art classes in school.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love when teachers are encouraging, because a lot of times you don't have that. I kind of come from the experience of not having the kind of push to do what I thought maybe all I needed was a little push. So it's nice to hear when young people have a teacher that like really kind of sees something in them and really encourages them to go after, to do it, or encourages them to currently do it in their classes and outside of class. I think that's amazing.
My teachers, man, they had to have like a separate standard, and they were just so much harder on me. And I think it was because I was so passionate about making art and writing and being a creative person. And it was just like, whatever I did, I felt like I always had to like do it more, do it harder. It was really valuable experience. I'm so thankful for it.
You talked about writing, being enjoyed creative writing. And you talked about writing earlier. Do you write, or obviously in marketing, you probably did, but do you write now? And is that part of your art journey as well, or?
So writing was really, really important to me. Initially, the degree I wanted to pursue was fine art writing with honors. So I wanted to be a novelist or a storyteller of some kind. And I was always writing, man, even in the same way that I was, drawing from a very young age. My mom, she had this thing for fantasy novels, and I was hooked. Robert Jordan, Terry Brooks, Isaac Asimov. Like, I grew up on that stuff. Like, my mom was class A nerd. I loved her. And there was just something about like the magic and the escapism of writing that hooked me. So I would say probably up until 25, when I really I lost that passion and that spark. It just didn't resonate with me anymore. I kind of stopped with the whole writing story things. I kind of pick up, like projects here and there. 20 years from now, I'll be the guy that was like, oh yeah, it took me 25 years to write this book. You should buy a copy. But no, by no means is it something that I'm actively practicing anymore.
Yeah. I find it interesting. We've talked about this before. Like, if you're creative in art, a lot of times you're creative either musically, or in this case, you're probably very creative in creative writing and writing stories. So I always find it interesting how people, when they're creative across the board, like a wide spectrum of different things that they dabble in. And I just find that interesting. So you're no different than a lot of the other people we talked with.
I think it's a very valuable thing. I tell people a lot about curiosity, and I think that's kind of what you're hinting at here, is this like, it's almost intellectual promiscuity, right? Like, every creative is like intellectually promiscuous, just spreading their creative oats everywhere. And it's so, so fundamental, because like the things that I learned from writing, or, history of rock and roll and music, that was my favorite class in school. The things I took from that, and all of this kind of mishmash of artistic interest in different media and applications of my artistic skill in every arena, it snowballs and coalesces into some weird magical soup. I don't know what it is, man. But yeah, it's vital to creatives everywhere, I think.
Yeah.
You describe yourself as a queerpreneur. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, let's do. So a queerpreneur, it's just a queer entrepreneur. And I think a lot of people don't realize, I know, a lot of people don't realize that the queer business community is huge. And I have met, I host a lot of public events. I focus on arts and culture, queer related events for the queer community. And it's sad that small businesses everywhere are so unrecognized and unsung. But particularly for the queer community, I think there are a lot of challenges. You're kind of working uphill in a lot of different ways. And so these queer entrepreneurs, myself included, it's such this vibrant and diverse and wonderful community of makers and creators and, everything you can imagine. And I think it's really important to highlight that and talk about that with the world, that there is a business community and there's also a queer business community. And let's support and nourish that just as much as we support and nourish all of the other areas of the business community.
I'm assuming you self-identify as queer, is that, or do you self-identify as something else?
Yeah, I self-identify as queer mostly because it's easier.
Okay. Yeah, we talked to somebody else recently that identified as queer, and I come from a different generation. It always kind of surprises me when I hear that word, even though, obviously now it doesn't surprise me now because it's so prevalent across our culture. But it's always interesting that in my day that was like a derogatory term for somebody, but yet you and Raven have like embraced that. And so what about that label or that self-identification really appeals to you, and why that and not something else like gay, like you mentioned earlier?
No, I think that's a great question. And yes, this is a really important, actually, I think you've scratched the surface of a really important topic here is, queer was a derogatory or pejorative term for so long, especially when we're looking back at the 1940s and the 1950s, early 60s. The worst thing you could be was queer, God forbid. There has been a concerted effort on behalf of the queer community, because it really is, in my opinion, it's a very big umbrella term, right? We're queer, we're wonderful, we're queer, weird individuals. And there has been a concerted effort on the part of the queer community to really reclaim that word. And when we reclaim that word, we're also reclaiming bits and pieces of our history and leaning into all of these maybe not so fun moments that led us to where we are today. If you ask me personally, I have sampled everything under the sun, boys, girls, everyone in between. And it's difficult to self-identify as gay, bi, pan, anything, because I really am just queer. Nothing's off limits. I'm queer.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And I don't know if you want to elaborate more about it, but I think these are important topics to discuss. And I always find it interesting because like I said, it's always like been a term in my youth that was kind of derogatory. And so I'm always kind of interesting why people identify it in a certain way. I thank you for going down that road with us. And I think your explanation is wonderful. It gives me a clear idea of, the community and the mindset of being queer in the community. This sounds weird coming from an old white guy, but
no, I think that's great. You could go down whatever rabbit hole you want. Yeah, queer is such a great word, and it's honestly the queer community, queer people in general. There's a vibrance and a richness and such a sense of history, especially on behalf of the younger generation now, the baby gays. I call them the baby gays, but they're all coming online and they're curious about our history and our elders and the defining moments. So it's a beautiful thing to embrace it, and also to want to embrace it and to be curious about it, Wes.
Yeah. This is an interesting conversation. I just love it and I love the fact that, the fact that you call them baby queers. I think that's awesome in a fun way, and I love the fact that you're talking about like the queer culture, because I don't think a lot of, straight guys or straight people think about it. I mean, they think about it as a culture, but you just described it as, let's say, a minority would describe their culture, right? That connection to the community. And I think that's a little different than what any other conversation I've had with, the gay community or whatever. And I love that. I love the idea that, not only do you embrace it, but you want the people coming after you to embrace it and to teach them the history and the struggle you went through. And I always take my hat off to people that want to know more about themselves and their community. So thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
For sure. Anytime you want to chat, you know how to find me.
All right.
And history matters. Like, I think that's an important aspect, right? Like, it's important to know who came before you in whatever spectrum we're talking about. It's good to know the history of how things evolved, how things came about, and who came before you, right?
I mean, I don't even think it's good. It's essential. You have to know history. And I think we can zoom out a little macro here is history in general. You can't really know how to break the rules until you understand the rules and where they came from. And you really can't begin to find your way as a person in general, but also as a creative, without trying on a million different hats of all of the people and the phases and the trends that have come before you. You just have to try them on and fully understand that to find your own way in this world, I think.
It sounds like you have a lot of hope too for the future, the way you talk about it. You know, there's been a backlash since probably Trump was in office, and, you know, some of the political leaders we have now, and, you know, in South Dakota with the governor against transgender, you know, sports. If you listen to like the media, you start to get a really negative sense. But do you have a sense of optimism about the queer community? And
yes, I mean, one, you caught me on a good day, so I'm very hopeful about the future today. No, in general, I am an eternal optimist, and I think, to Todd's point, if we're going to understand this period of time that we're living through now, we must understand history. The media, one, Wes, don't listen to it. Two, when we kind of look back in American history, at least, we're not really living through that unprecedented or unique of a time. I like to think that if we were drawing parallels, we're somewhere between like 1920s, 1930s with, you know, ultra, you know, cosmopolitan liberal cities in America just bursting at the seams with creativity and talent, followed by the inevitable, you know, pendulum swinging the other direction. Or even maybe if we're looking at like 1950s, early 1960s, there's this overwhelming, like, you know, mood and vibe in the nation, but also the sense that we've gone a little too far. Maybe we're letting things get a little too wild and crazy. Backlash. And so when we can frame this current time period within previous time periods and know America came out just fine. We didn't just come out just fine. We came out better than before. There's a lot less fear. Am I concerned? Yes, as every single person should be. Am I terrified that we're in some kind of existential danger, or that we're trundling towards some unmitigated civil war? I just don't buy it. But the folks who are trying to sell you things, and the folks who really enjoy when you are firmly within the system, would prefer to sell you these stories of doom and gloom. And, you know, I watch YouTube all day long, and you can get an unfiltered 18 hours straight of pure bad news. But we have to separate ourselves from that and look around at the actual world around us and the people around us, and especially the young people. I can't sing the praises of the young people enough. Like, good things are happening and will happen. We have to get together and make it through this rough patch.
The tide is changing, and I'm hopeful for the future. I have children that are late teens, early 20s, and they give me hope for the future. We just got to get rid of all the old people.
Oh, gosh. You caught me by surprise with that one. We just have to get rid of all the old people. I'm fond of a few of them. Can we save a few?
Yes, I'm very fond of older people as well. I'm just joking. But I'm optimistic for I like to be optimistic. I'm not always like yourself. You said that we caught you on a good day.
Yeah.
You could get me on the wrong day too.
I think that's with everybody though.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You have two very different pieces. I mean, they're both creative, but two things that you do. You have this business where you plan events and you do fundraising and do different things to raise awareness for different charities and that sort of thing. And then you have your business of art. Talk about each one of those just a little bit for me.
Yeah, for sure. I would say my life is set up so that everything supports everything else. So events and art may not initially seem to go hand in hand, but they do. And for me, I guess to talk about events first, this year I've hosted 16 so far. I had to count. this afternoon because I was going crazy trying to figure out how many people have I met this year. It's a lot. So I've hosted 16 events this year, and my focus is really on the queer community, philanthropy, and frankly, bringing community together. I don't make queer inclusive events. I don't make straight exclusive events. It's very much bring community together, and with enough eyeballs and when you have the right people in the room, a whole lot of amazing things can happen. So I have planned this year, the range would be, I've started the year with a fetish festival. I have done, vendor markets, art markets. I do a quarterly art show. It's a big art showcase of local talent. Also fundraisers. This is gala season. So I have 2 galas coming up, and a lot of my work centers around raising awareness and raising money. Yeah. Raising awareness and raising money. That's how you make an impact, I think, right now, or at least my ability to make an impact. So
that is a very diverse range of things that you do and produce. How did you get involved, or how did you get into planning events and putting on different affairs?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was co-owner of this local LGBT magazine here in Denver called Outfront. And it's a small operation. I love those guys. They're still in business. But when I was there, we knew that we could make a lot of money by hosting events. And we knew, especially, 10 years ago, the queer community was not as out loud and proud and well-funded as it is today. So I thought, okay, I've never hosted an event in my life. Let's just start doing this. And I think my first event was maybe 50 or 60 people. It was a networking event. We got people in a bar and we got a few free drinks, and that's kind of how it started. But at some point it was just like, okay, I did this. Let's try something bigger. I grew up in Aurora, Colorado, and Denver has a great gay scene, but it's very Denver. So there's Denver Pride, all the gay bars are in Denver, all of the, gay bookstores and everything like that. It's in Denver. But I came from Aurora, and, demographically, Aurora could not be more different. It is the second most diverse city in the country. I think there's 165 different languages that kids in school speak there, right? And just like here in Denver, there are queer people out in Aurora. And I thought, why the heck isn't there an Aurora Pride? Like, I'm proud to be from Aurora. I think it was a great place to grow up for a little while. So I called the Aurora City Council and said, hey, I want to have an Aurora Pride. And so my events jumped from 55, 60 people at first to 5,000.
Wow.
And I think once you've done a public festival and you kind of see and feel like it's very tangible, right? It's like artwork. Hosting an event is like artwork. And when you're standing in the middle of that event and you're experiencing it and you're looking around at everything that has come together in concert, right? You have 50 different contractors and 20 different volunteers. You have all these moving pieces and parts going on. But when you finally step back and you look at what you've done, it's the most gratifying feeling in the world. It's addictive. It really is. It's the event high in the industry. We call it the event high. And there really isn't a substitute. I can't think of a substitute.
That is so cool. And that's a big jump, man, going from 50 to 5,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you even wrap around, and maybe you didn't in the moment, but how did you wrap your head around going to, like you said, such a smaller kind of venue kind of thing to this whole like city festival? Was that an easy jump, or what was some of the barriers that you ran into?
Oh gosh. I don't even think that in the thick of it, I realized what I was doing, to be honest. It was literally me, and I had 3 or 4 other folks in the office at that time, and we all supported each other. Everybody had a different function, but it wasn't just me. It wasn't just them. It was all of us working together, right? But in the moment, you aren't thinking, I don't even think it's possible to think, at that 30,000 foot level in the moment, because you're dealing with permits and oh my God, the stage guy just canceled, and who the hell didn't drop off the porta potties where they were supposed to be, right? It's this little minutia that you don't really appreciate. So I don't think, and this is kind of a reckless theme in my entire life, I don't think there was ever a question of like, this is like a huge jump. This is something that maybe I bit off more than I could chew. It just was like, let's do it. Let's just do it.
A sense of confidence going into it. And, like you had a purpose. And I think you explained it right, is you're so focused on the vast majority of the minutia of every little piece that has to fall in place to make this festival happen, that you just you're just like digging in and going. And then maybe after you're like, holy buckets, that was a huge event,
Oh yeah. No, once it all wears off and you actually, I call it a post-mortem, is after every event, a big event, I do a post-mortem with my team. And I have no heart and soul when it comes to business. I mean, it's just business is business. Let's do it and make it better. And we will sit around a table and pick apart every single thing that went well, everything that went poorly, just the most critical post-mortem examination of something. And that is when you really start to realize like, oh man, like this happened. You feel like you've been hit by a truck for like 7 days after a big event like that. But, after Aurora Pride, and that was 2017, after that whole thing, 2018 was when I incorporated my art making business. And for that year in between, I didn't have it in me. I wasn't at a place in my life where I was mentally capable of hosting my own events at that time. So I fell in with this company that I worked for, and I traveled all over, and I went to other people's events and I was taking notes of what they were doing. And it's a real gift to be able to go all over Colorado and to go to events big and small and to experience the communities there and to see what specific needs are being filled by these events. So after that, coming out into being a business owner, I got back into events with throwing my own art events. I have never been a huge fan of the gallery scene. I'm really kind of anti-gallery because it seems like they're a little anti-artist. And so I thought, you know what? I can do it better and I can make more money. So my first art show that I threw for myself, it was called Spark. And it was like a spring event on a rooftop. And we got, I don't know, like 300 of our best friends. And we found this condo company down here in Denver. And they gave us all these condos for free. And I picked out a bunch of artists and they said, you bring people to come look at our condos. We'll let you decorate all of the condo, top floor, all the way down. You hang whatever the hell you want, as long as you throw the party. And so I did. And that was the first sold out collection I ever had. I think I sold 16 pieces that night. And it was, again, it's the event high. And you're like, wow, like I brought all these people together and actually they really liked my work. Like, whoa, it's double win. It's great.
That's freaking genius on the condominium side, don't you think, Todd?
That is spectacular. And I love the DIY approach, thinking outside the box and making something happen. Like that to me is, I admire that when people have that ability to put something together like that. That's great.
Oh, thanks, Todd. Come give me a hug.
He's giving you a virtual hug right now.
Oh.
Was that kind of a one-off, the whole condominium thing, or have you replicated that time and again?
Over and over and over. I mean, it's just great because over the years, I have started finally cultivating, my own client list, and I have my own buyers and my own collectors, and right, I'm collecting other queer entrepreneurs on the way, and I'm meeting other business owners, and it's like in my head, it's always this game of Tetris of where does something fit in? How can we all win together? And so it went from this condo property to now I partner with local real estate firms and local realtors. And if they have a nice, upmarket property and they have some walls that they'll loan to me, I'll bring in some art, and it really helps them because my clients will come. But also here in Denver, it seems like the current real estate trend is to make your property stand out or to be different from your competitor. You bring in a local artist, or you have like a local guitarist or something playing during your showings. So that's been really successful. And then, right, taking it one step further now, where I'm at is again, combining all of this knowledge that I've gained over time. And now I'm throwing really big art markets where there might be 30 or 40 local queer and allied artists in a room. And I'm one of them, of course. So I get to host the event. I get the gratification of seeing people come together, and I get to sell my work. I get in front of a amplified audience, right? Yeah. Always trying to figure out how we can all win and do it bigger.
So your business, obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously. Here's the question. I know you make money selling your art at these events. Does your business make money from the artist or the realtor, or how does your company get paid to do these events?
That's a great question too. So with vendor markets, popping up a bunch of tents and we're outdoors in Rhino on a weekend or something like that. That's where, entrepreneurs and fellow business owners, there's going to be a vendor fee to participate. I keep my fees really low because I don't know, 8 out of 10 small businesses out there are sole proprietor, or maybe there's 2 folks in their house trying to make ends meet. So it's usually $120 to come out for the day. And that covers, you rent the parking lot, maybe you have to bring in porta potties, do some marketing. But that's really the small piece. Where I ask people to step up and start cutting checks is when I'm dealing with corporate partners who I know they have the money. I know they have the logo. So, give me $1,000 and we'll get your brand out there, but know that this is how much it's going to cost for you to support the queer community and, to really step up in the community and show that you actually care about small businesses.
And that's been pretty successful for you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sponsors, there's no substitute for peer-to-peer relationship building, person-to-person marketing. And that is a public event. So, anybody who wants to come to me and they say, hey, I've got a big company and we want to underwrite your event, please call me. We'll put my contact information in there But really it's get out there and nurture your community, because some of these companies take so much. We're only asking for a little bit.
Yeah. That's smart. That's very smart. And I come from the nonprofit world, so corporate partnerships was just one of the legs of the stool that we always sat on, that and, government funding or, private donors. But yeah, that's a key element to any kind of successful nonprofit or business like what you're pulling through. Yeah, that's genius.
Thanks.
So we talked about the event side of thing, and we'll probably circle back to that at some point in this conversation. But let's talk a little bit about your art. I want you to take a moment and describe what you do in the mediums that you work in to our listeners.
Oh boy. Okay. What do I do? Well, so I'm a visual fine artist. I'm a painter. My media is acrylic, but I'm getting kind of weird lately, Todd. I won't lie. I'm experimenting like a lot with substrate right now, but I'm getting ahead of myself. And what do I do? I think my body of work is defined by not having a visual style. It's kind of frustrating sometimes, but I model my business after almost a fashion model, where every quarter or so, my brain just gets bored and I'll pivot in an entirely new direction and produce just a completely different body of work. So I guess, like, for example, this year I started the year with landscapes. We're in the West, we're in the Mountain West here, and there's a wonderful heritage of landscape art and Western art that we're surrounded by. And I thought, okay, well, this seems fun. It's kind of dreary. It's bleak winter. Let's make some landscapes. I think where my heart and soul really lies is pop art. I love pop art. I think it is the most relevant and just accurate expression for today's world is pop art. And so where I've really kind of parked most of my ducks at this point is a visual style that I call sour cute. And why is it sour cute? It's a little bit sour and a little bit cute. There are cartoons and characters. I get a little unhinged, and you'll see a lot of comic book references and maybe darker references or darker imagery contrasted with, like, these cute little dancing stars and, piggy banks and stuff. Oh, hey, everybody panic. All right. I like that piece. That's a good memory. Piece. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that was from the first Sour Cute It was just called Sour Cute. And I honestly, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, you guys. I don't know where this came from. So, um, I don't know. It's like a funny sort of angst, I think, is the only way I can describe it. And it's captivating to the viewer because the viewer goes, "Oh my God, look how cute this is. Like, I want to show this to my friend, or I want to get stoned and look at this artwork forever, you know?" But then they really start to kind of get in there and they're like, "Oh man, dude, this is kind of dark." Like, and it's a lot. It's like an onion and it kind of peels itself back over time. These aren't pieces that are easy, I don't think.
No, I totally agree with you. There's a lot going on. It's a beautiful piece, so I really like it. So when you're painting something like this, or maybe even one of your other pieces, is it kind of free flowing, or do you have a structure that you're trying to, or a point you're trying to make, and now you're just like creating it on the canvas?
Yeah, kind of neither. I know that's a little contradictory, but it, it's interesting because in the creative process, like I don't start with a sketch for any of these. I literally just, I'll start in one corner of the canvas and I'll change my mind about a color. And it kind of has a root in never, what am I trying to say here? It's like the anti-version of painting over a mistake. I just started with, okay, you know what? We're not painting over anything because in these pieces, there is no mistake. And I'm going to couple it with the head frame that I'm in. What's really interesting about them is that at first the images, they don't make sense together. There isn't a lot of, thematic unification or a real narrative there. But once you get sort of midway, 75% of the way through these works, it clicks. And you're like, all of these things have been bugging me and I don't know what they are, but now it's this. The one you're showing right now is pork chop. So, I've been a vegetarian for, God, since I was like 11 years old. So 21 years now. And I think that the industrial farming is just, dude, it's sick. One day historians are like going to look back on us and they're going to be like, dude, like you guys are monsters. So I was like, whatever, I'm going to exempt myself from that system. I was like 11 and Manimal, it says Manimal. This piece is called pork chop, but it just, I don't know what I was mad about, but for some reason that week it was the industrial farming system. And that's what happened.
The bright colors, it's whimsical. Even the structure of it is whimsical, but yet, like you said, it has this like darker feel, that definitely comes out. It's a great piece. Todd, you were going to say something.
I was just going to say, it's like, it feels like you dumping your brain out onto a canvas, right? Like all these ideas 100%. Just fall into place. And like you said, you're not painting over anything. You're just adding to it. And the splash of color, your color palette, it's what sucks you in first. And you're like, whoa, what's going on here? And then you start peeling back the layers like you were describing. And you're like, oh, there's something going on. Oh yeah, there's a message in here. And,
yeah.
I think it's brilliant, man. I really love this series. So this has been what you've really been focusing on as of late. Is that true?
Yeah. So Sour Cute, very much in line with, right, like fantasy novels, anime world. Sour Cute has kind of become this ongoing, never-ending story that reflects the world around it. So Sour Cute 1 was just, I was just dipping my toes into the pool. Oh, hey. Oh, Eat the Rich. Oh, that was a fun one too. Anyway, just dipping my toes into this idea of like maybe a more radical expression, but still contemporary. I love Takashi Murakami and I love video game, especially the 1990s and early 2000s. I love also that sort of thing. And over time, now we're at Sour Cute 5, which is what I'm working on right now. And it's very sour, I can tell you. But before that, there was the Sour Cute Invasion where the ideas behind Sour Cute really started to coalesce and it became less junk drawer of my brain and more unified. It knew what it wanted to say more because it's very much world building, right? The world was starting to become more fully fleshed out in my head. And the whole narrative here is the sour cute. They're these cute little aliens from outer space and just crash land on Earth. One day, the little spaceship crash lands on Earth, and dude, we are fucked because the sour cute they are out to show us and hold a mirror up to us about like, dude, this is the world we crash landed on. Like, what a mess. Why did we end up here and we can't go anywhere? And that's really how it started.
I love that. And that's what great art does is it holds a mirror up to us and shows us different facets of what's either right or wrong with our society, right?
Right. Art is fundamental and when done correctly, revolutionary, right?
It's what moves us along as a culture, as a society.
Yeah.
Right. Art is always at the
100%.
forefront, and it changes. It changes us. It changes our world.
Yes.
Brilliant series. I love this sour cute work. And do you have an exhibition where you're going to be showing this work anytime soon?
No, I do not. Right now, where I'm showing my work is my art studio. I am neck deep in creating Sour Cute 5, which is called The Dark Parade. So, in referencing our previous conversations here, the world is in a fairly dark time. It may not be unique in American history, but, we are facing a fairly dark present. And I don't think it's just here. I think it's globally. There's a lot of weirdness, nefariousness going on right now that I just feel like this like rage, man. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm just like, yes, I'm an eternal optimist, but damn, I'm angry. Like there's so many things everywhere you look. It's like, there's a problem. There isn't one place that you can look right now and it doesn't feel like there's a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I get so sucked into like every day, either the media or any kind of social media. And boy, it can feed your anger in a minute. And boy, sometimes I'm just like, I got to get out of that headspace, because it's
right.
It just eats you up. And having the outlet of painting, I think that's got to be really kind of cathartic in a sense. Get what's in your head out on canvas, I would imagine can be very cathartic.
Oh, a lot of times it isn't even about telling a story to other people. It's about sitting down and actually making sense of my own brain, right? Art has often been used, right, to hold up that mirror outwardly. But I think it's just as important that it's self-exploratory, right? And one of the things that just eats me alive, man, is climate change. And it always has. It's been so important to me. I was a little hippie even when I was a kid, guys. But when I sit as myself, just one person, and I look down the barrel of climate change, I don't even know what to do. I don't know where to start. I know that I'm bombarded by this messaging that tells me, individuals can affect the change. Everything's on the individual and, you're the solution. What does that even mean? Like what am I even looking at? Like everywhere you go, right? There's these wildfires and there's consumption and we have all of these things. What can I personally do about it? What am I even scared of? And so to be able to go into my studio and make sense of all of this Jabberwocky upstairs, it is cathartic. And my hope is that after I make sense of it in my own heart, then I can show it off to the world and be like, hey, maybe you can relate to this too. If not, that's okay.
So this is the 5th series of Sour Cute. First of all, have you sold all of series 1 through 4, or is this something that you're kind of holding on to, or is it moved as far as artwork?
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't sold, it was probably destroyed. It's one of my favorite things to do. I love destroying my work. But anyway, yes, I think pretty much all of those pieces have been placed. I occasionally hold 1 or 2 things back, but I'm really not a big fan of old memories, I guess, confronting me every day. So
sure.
I'll hang some of my work on the wall at home for 5 or 6 months, and then I'll get tired of it and be like, get away from me. Yeah.
That's good. That's a good way to go, because you're never attached to something. You're always moving it. And then, kind of out of curiosity, you talked about doing this landscape work. Obviously we've seen some of the sour cute stuff. Are your collectors, or the people that buying your art, are they buying both kinds, or do you see like my landscape sells to this kind of group and this sells to a totally different group?
100%, man. And this is where I would encourage every artist, go learn about marketing, learn about demographics, learn about tracking your consumer and meeting your consumer. Yes, very different buyers for very different visual styles. I have clients in Aspen who, they may really like a nice, soft and pretty mountain scene. That's more their speed. And then I have, the edgy client down in Dallas who's going, I want sour cute. I want it on my wall. This is so bombastic. Nobody has this. And they tend to be very different buyers.
You got to understand multiple markets then, and really trying to understand one market is one thing, but having multiple markets, that's a total different kind of mental gymnastics, if you will.
Yeah, sure. I would agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. Understanding multiple markets here.
Good. And that's fine. I don't know what I was even trying to get at, but I was just curious, because when you looked at, we looked at a little bit of the landscape stuff, not too much, but totally different vibe, totally different look. And then the sour cute is just like in your face. And I love it. I think it's amazing. Do you feel like you're going to go back to, like, do you say, okay, now I got to produce for this older market, my landscape stuff? Or once you kind of go through a series of these kind of paintings, do you move on to something completely different and abandoning, the landscapes altogether?
I tend to do the second option, which is love them and leave them, right? Like, I had my fun, I explored, I probably learned a valuable lesson or some new technique in that world. But probably, I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for myself 30 years from now, but
Right.
Most likely it's probably not going to look like landscape art. But to your previous point, I think what I'm hearing is, when we're talking about the different kind of consumer or appealing to multiple different, visual styles here, I think what I'm hearing is, how are we relating to different kind of people, right? Yes, it's a different kind of consumer, and it is knowing a different kind of buyer, or cultivating a different kind of relationship, or, something like that. But I think it's fundamentally about, how do we communicate and relate to one another in spite of our differences? And in this case, it may be the expression that came from my heart is a field of flowers, right? That just related to somebody who I've never met, and maybe we have very little in common. And I think that's what I was hearing you allude to a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, because like you said, they're totally different. So you have these two unique kind of markets. And then, kind of like what you're saying, you're always evolving and you're leaving one behind. It's almost like you're abandoning a market altogether. But maybe if I loved your landscapes, I just got to wait, kind of wade through what I'm seeing. And then something else will, because they're going to connect to you as an artist, something's going to probably appeal to them anyway. But I was just kind of curious, the approach there, because you could be very methodical. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I know you're about to say something. You could be very methodical about, okay, I'm gonna do these 3 series of landscapes, and then because this is calling me, I'm gonna bust my butt on 5, 6, 8 different series of sour cute. But I know I got this other market that's collecting my stuff. So now I'm going to go back and do some more paintings for my landscape people, and be very methodical about that. I was just kind of curious if you do that. And it sounds like you don't at this point, but maybe you will in the future.
Right. And what I would say is, the answer to that question is usually a commission. If somebody approaches me and says, hey, I love what you're doing right now, but I really want a landscape, send me an email, man. I've got 2 hands. I'll put it on your wall eventually. But what is interesting about that, Wes, is, we're going to do 2 different bodies of work right now. Now let's really mind fuck everybody, and we're going to do them at the same time. So let's do a series of landscapes at the same time as doing a series of sour cute. And that is when things get really weird and really awesome, because it starts to rub off. And even if I never revisit landscapes, right? Whatever I've learned from that, even sometimes maybe repurposing, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, is repurposing a couple of these soft and pretty pieces and just spray painting them or making them super abrasive, like completely changing their meaning. And that is where the magic happens, is when you're doing it both at the same time, I think, personally.
I think that's brilliant too. I think that's a brilliant idea. And here's what's really funny, and I don't know if this is true, but I get a sense that sometimes, there's a lot of artists that overpaint. They'll have a canvas, they'll paint something beautiful, and then they decide to, scrap the whole thing. So they'll paint over it. And even though you can't see what's under it, there's this vibe that comes through that connects sometimes. I've heard that. I don't know if it's true or if it's just woo-woo stuff, but we do like woo-woo here. But you know what I'm saying? That maybe that underpainting of this softer landscape piece will kind of get something through to what's going on the front. Any thoughts on that, or am I just totally whacked?
No, you are ahead. Like, I swear that you're like living in my studio. So please, let's talk about rent. But there's this great piece on my website. I'd encourage any listener to go see it. It's called King of Peace. And I'm constantly looking to improve my technical ability. As we've already discussed, I didn't go to art school. I don't consider myself that incredibly talented. And so I was doing a series of very, very large portraits, and they were modeled after kind of just, neoclassical art school stuff. Find a cool image online, duplicate it, make it big. And I don't know what it was. It was great. It was technically rendered. I was quite proud of it. And I just looked at it and I was bored. And then I think the next day I came in and I was maybe in a mood, or, something had pissed me off, and I just started overpainting it. It was really great work. I'm telling you, I loved it. And I just went freaking crazy. Like, I don't even know what happened. It was like nothing exceeds like excess. And 2 weeks later, a completely different piece with the bones of the original showing through. And I think to date, it's one of my most popular pieces. I actually do have this one in my storage right now. It goes on the wall regularly. And that is definitely some of the magic right there, is that layering and starting at one place and ending somewhere completely different.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that story. I think I read that you've burned your artwork. In fact, you burned some artwork and then like sold your first piece not that long after. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah. So I burnt my very first painting. I just thought it was a good idea. I don't even know. Like, it was very symbolic at that time. I was moving to Colorado Springs. I made the quintessential mistake of my 20s and fell in love and moved for somebody. And there was just something about leaving behind my life in Denver and, my first painting here in Denver. And I just threw it in a fireplace and watched it burn. And then, yes, shortly thereafter, 6 months later, I sold my very first artwork to a couple close friends of mine. They still have it in their house. The last time I saw it, I took it off the wall and I was like, I'll bring it back in a week, but there's something wrong. Yeah, what a wild ride, right?
That's crazy. It's kind of, that's like a literal translation of Stephen King's "Kill Your Little Darlings." When you burn your own painting, like that would be hard. I think that would be hard for me. Like it'd be like killing your little darlings. That would be hard, but I could see where, like in your case, it was very cathartic. You're leaving something back or behind and, moving forward. That's interesting. How did you feel when it was burning? How did you feel? Like what emotions were coming through?
Kind of like, one, satisfied, like immense satisfaction. I don't know what it is about lighting something on fire. It's great. Don't do it. My dad's a fireman. It's really just don't. No, I mean, there's like this immense satisfaction, and I'm not sentimental. I'm not precious about my work. A lot of people, they treat artwork like it's on a wall and they're like, oh my God, like I found the Holy Grail. And I'm like, dude, touch it. Like, I didn't spend 100 hours, 120 hours on this thing for you to like stare at it. Like, get up to it, touch it. Like, don't be precious with it and don't get too sentimental. When people cling to ideas or they they cling to like this one thing, a symbolic first painting, right? It's almost like I feel stuck. And it's like it becomes bigger than what it is. You have to destroy it. You have to destroy your best work.
Oh,
That's great.
Clifford Steele would like lose his mind, I think. You know the story about Clifford Steele, like when they bought his work, it was like what, like 95% of it, Todd, that he still kept. It was some ungodly percentage
that he had in his
he
possession.
never sold. He had in his house, and
he only sold it when he needed something,
a new Ferrari,
a new car,
or something like that.
whatever. Yeah.
He was a real weird dude. He's one of my favorite artists. I love Clifford Steele. Yep.
Yeah.
You strike me after having this whole conversation, even before we discuss the whole like burning of paintings, that you don't live in the past. You're not nostalgic towards anything. Is that a truism, or does it depend?
I think it's case by case. It depends on that one. I'm not as sentimental about my work as I am the moments attached to it. You know, I'm sentimental about the memory of selling my first painting to my two friends. And I know that I can always go back to their house and I can see that work, but it's not something where I have to like hoard my art or keep it away from the world. Like it's very much, why the heck am I going to make it if I'm just going to like be precious about it and keep it to myself? But no, I mean, you know, also just personally, I can be very nostalgic and sentimental. I get very nostalgic about specific periods of time in history. I don't know if you guys ever do this, but you find yourself wanting to go back and experience a period of time in history that you just are so fascinated about. So I experience nostalgia in those sort of ways.
What time frame would that be for you, or what period, what era?
Oh gosh, modern era. I would love to be in like the 70s, but like disco 70s, London 70s, maybe even Berlin. Let's go back to Berlin in 1970. That sounds fun. Antiquity though, I just am so curious about Egypt, man. Like, what an incredible group of people. Wow. I would love to go back to Egypt and just spend some time kicking the sand there. It'd be great.
Yeah, I just watched a whole documentary on finding some lost, or searching for a lost tomb, actually. And it's that, like, that whole period of the pharaohs was just really interesting, and their artwork is interesting, and what they did, you know, burial traditions is just fascinating. So yeah, I totally get where you're coming from.
I mean, even, you know, when you look, there's even this kind of unified idea that a culture should present in a certain way, and the architectural styles and the type of writing, and it's very graphic and visual. I think that's probably what appeals to me the most, is this like graphic, complete vision of a culture. I don't know, but I mean, I've never been there, so maybe that's naive. You know, it's many thousands of years ago.
Yeah, well, I mean,
maybe it would just suck.
Well, it probably sucked on a lot of different levels, depending on where you were at, right?
But at the same time, magnificent, like what they were doing, right?
Yeah.
And then what about Berlin 1970s? Are you nostalgic for?
I don't know, man. I mean,
I don't even know what Berlin in 1970, and I grew up in the 70s, and I don't even know what Berlin in 1970s mean.
To me, it would be like no holds bar, like anything goes, like about as like out there and creative as you could possibly get. That's the vibe that I kind of.
Okay. I just curious.
I'm talking about like, man, Berlin in the 70s. That was just all out bacchanalia, right? Like, I'm thinking like the underground music scene and the clubs and what the gay scene there must have been like, because it wasn't so taboo, right? It was, I mean, obviously if you were in East Germany, you don't want to be gay there, but in West Germany, it was like this like liberal, cosmopolitan, like everybody take your clothes off kind of environment. I have to imagine that's what it was like. And it appeals to the libertine in me. How about that?
There you go.
Sure.
Kind of like Studio 54 in New York City, right? It was a party nonstop, you know?
Yeah.
And people taking their clothes off without a problem. And Andy Warhol in your face, you know, taking Polaroids, you know, or whatever.
Yeah. I wish I could have met him. What a fascinating person. Do you guys like, is there anybody you would like want to meet, an art figure?
Oh, we've been doing this so long. I don't even know. That's a good question.
That is a great question.
Oh,
Turn the tables on you, man.
Yeah, I know who I'd want to meet. I would love to meet John Singer Sargent because he's one of my faves, and just to watch his process would be fun. I think, and I don't know. I haven't heard that he was a big dick, but maybe he was. But I guess he'd be one I would want to meet. Ansel Adams, just to follow him around because I'm a huge fan. Todd, give me somebody.
Irving Penn.
Oh.
I think would be a fascinating guy to hang out with.
Yeah.
Because he was always, exploring. That exploration very much appeals to me. Yeah. First and foremost, that guy. Trying to think of who else. Like maybe not even artist, maybe like a writer or something like that. Like Paul Bowles. He was one of the beat writers.
Okay. I don't know him. Do I know Paul? I don't know him. That name doesn't ring a bell.
He wrote a great book called The Sheltering Sky. They made it into a movie, like I think in the 90s. It has Deborah Winger and John Malkovich in it. Anyway, William S. Burroughs would be really interesting to like talk with and hang out with. I don't know.
Is it Bukowski? No, I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Bukowski.
I would 100% hang out with Bukowski.
That's who I thought you would say, Todd, when you said writers.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of went to a different place there.
Yeah, you
but
did.
I actually kind of went into the, kind of into that beat scene. Ken Casey. I don't know. I'm on this writer's kick now. Like, I don't know.
Any takers for a date with Allen Ginsberg, man?
That would be interesting. Yeah. But I like a little bit of the darker side of things. So William S. Burroughs probably would have been my first choice, but
in Mexico,
Allen Ginsberg would be, shooting his wife in the head.
Right. That would have been a great weekend to hang out with him, right? Having a few drinks and like stand over there and I'm going to shoot the apple off your head or whatever it was. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Capped her in the head.
Interesting. Yeah. Great question, man.
Yeah. How about you, writer? Is there a writer that you would want to spend some time with other than Bukowski that you mentioned or agreed with?
Hunter S. Thompson and Jack Kerouac.
There you
go. There you go. Hunter S. Yeah, he was a cool guy. He was really cool. And he had some very far forward beliefs. I think he would fit right in with kind of the global warming, climate change, eco-friendly movements that we're experiencing now. I think he and Greta Thunberg would just like, dude, they would have so much fun together.
Think so?
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah. So, no, definitely those two guys. I think artist-wise, I really want to meet Albert Bierstadt just because, like, what would his life be like? Like, I mean, there was, you didn't just drive out, to the Yellowstone Valley in your car and set up and paint, a giant 6-foot by 8-foot canvas. Like this guy was out in the elements on plein air. He had these sketchbooks and assistants working for him. What would that have been like? That had to have been amazing. And of course, I would really have loved to meet my personal idol, Alexander McQueen. What an inspiring, talented individual. I would have loved to get to know him and meet him.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Todd's I thought he was doing
this guy.
Something. There you go.
If you've never experienced his work, Paul Outerbridge Jr. You can appreciate.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun. I wish the listeners could see this. We gotta send them some photos.
Just interesting compositions between still life and nudes. I think totally underrated.
I would say so because I don't even think I've even heard of him. I'll have to check him out.
When you come down, I'll make sure you have that book in your hands and you can check it out. You'll appreciate it.
Yeah.
Your work is very diverse, which is what I really appreciate in an artist. Like I love the exploration and I know that's just part of the process for you. Talk about inspiration versus exploration.
How did you know, man? This is like my thing. I will do a TED talk about this any day, Todd. Do not sit on your ass. Every fellow artist, do not sit on your ass waiting for inspiration to strike. It is exploration. You have to do it. If you can't do it daily, you need to be making something with your hands weekly. You need to be exploring every new frontier and sampling different media and trying new things. You have to be putting this into practice. You can't wait for inspiration, because I don't even think inspiration exists. Honestly, like, I think, like, to some extent there's like, oh yeah, okay, this is a great idea. This is a great feeling. But inspiration itself, I think it's almost a cop out sometimes that young artists use, and they sit and, maybe it's a rainy window and they're like, oh, so sad. I haven't had any inspiration. Dude, you're not making anything with your hands. You gotta put this into practice. And the more, even if you hate it, 15, 20 minutes a day, the more you do it, you're going to go, oh, okay, I've learned my lesson from these past pieces. Let's implement that here. And it's the exploratory process, not the inspiration process, that should drive art making practice.
Love that.
Yeah, I do too. And I think, it goes back to like creativity begets creativity, right? Something, you're creating something and it just keeps churning, and it changes, and if something else comes up, like you said. Yeah. If you're sitting and waiting for the muse, you might be there a while, because I think she's a fickle bitch and she doesn't show up very often.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Total flake, man. Don't make plans. No, I met this amazing visual artist, a few years ago, and I was just talking to her, like, her work, it was stunning. Like, the way I think her medium was pastel, and the way that she used contrasting color up close, it was almost like a newspaper, right? Like, when you look really close to a newspaper, there's all these little dots, but when you step away is when you see the image. And with her work, it was like these fine lines going on here. And I just asked her, because when you step away, it was completely different. And I said, where did you come up with this? Like, this is genius. Like, I think this is great. And she said, I was riding the RTD bus and I looked down at the pattern of the fabric on the chair, and I saw all the different lines and the colors, and I decided to paint it. And my mind was just blown. Like, my mind was blown. Like, who gets on a bus and they're like, oh, wow, I'm going to find my art making muse today. I didn't even know that was a thing. And it's kind of become a core memory for me, because, like, I honestly, if we met today in a crowded restaurant, I would probably walk right by. I don't even remember, but it left such a lasting impact on me to just find detail and find your art in the world around you. Everything else will follow.
And maybe that's why I haven't found my muse, because she's on a bus with somebody else.
You're going downtown. She's going uptown.
Uptown. Yeah. That's always my problem. Never on the right bus with my muse. God damn it. So it's my problem, really. No, I love that whole exploration thing, because you're absolutely right. If you're creating, you're always, I mean, it doesn't force it, but just that constant, it's like a muscle, right? You're working that muscle. And whether it's a mental muscle or actually learning movement and expression and changing it and all that, I think that's brilliant.
And the bottom line. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, I was just saying thank you. You got to show that gratitude, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
And I was going to say the bottom line, Wes, is you just got to ride more buses, dude.
That's right. I'm driving too much. I need to get on the bus.
Get on the bus.
We have like 3 bus lines in Rapid, and I don't think you can set your clock by them, because I think they're pretty fickle too. The muse is just like, maybe I'll drive. I'm going to wait a little while before I get on the next line. I don't know. Anyway, I've beat that dead horse to death. Let's move on. Save me, Todd. Ask another wonderful question.
Well, let's talk about some more work. I love this whole series of personal vision of hell.
Yeah.
And this self-portrait is wonderful. I love this piece. Talk about this self-portrait 7, Smoke Dancing.
Yes. Okay. This was rough. So I actually had a nervous breakdown when I finished this collection. I know that's like a very artist thing to say, but like, putting personal vision of hell together was very much me reconciling my future with my past. And to understand it, you have to understand that I was heavily into drugs and partying. I had ridden the party train so far down the rabbit hole that I really just didn't know which way was up anymore. And I did overdose, and my life is basically bifurcated between that moment and everything after it and before it. So I approached personal vision of hell with a lot of leftover demons, but also a willingness to hold space with them and to start incorporating some of the aspects of therapy and psychiatry that I was finally embracing, that I really needed in my life at that time. So this painting, Smoke Dancing, I think at the bottom, sorry, I'm leaning in really close here. It says, I have destroyed and rebuilt myself 1,000 times, and I am still rising. And I just couldn't think of a more apt metaphor for my life, is constantly, if not a reinvention, coming back from something terrible, or I guess almost feeling like a bit of a phoenix from ashes over and over and over again. And so this image here, it is a self-portrait, and I think it's 5 feet tall. It's 48 by 60. It's a big piece. It's me metaphorically rising from, I don't know, the cesspool, the womb, the whatever that gelatinous red substance is. I don't think it's blood, but it's got to be, it's like a rebirth, a whole rebirth.
That's exactly what I got out of this piece. Death and rebirth, right?
Right. And they can exist hand in hand, and they exist hand in hand in our lives every single day.
Yeah. It's the yin and yang, right?
100%, 100%. But this collection was very difficult. It broke me in a good way. I'm glad it did. Yeah.
And this is a piece you still have in your possession, you said?
No, I don't have any of those pieces anymore. I think Personal Vision of Hell was the first time I was proud of myself as an artist, I think. Because I felt like from beginning to end, it was, highly uncharacteristic, right? From beginning to end, it was a unified vision. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and often I don't. And I was working at a breakneck pace, you guys. I mean, I produced seven pieces for this collection. That was it. But they were big. There were 2 6 foot by 6 feet, and then the rest were 48 by 60, so 4 feet by 5 feet. And I turned out those 7 pieces in 2.5, 3 weeks, I think.
Wow.
It was, I would work until 3 or 4 in the morning, and then I'd wake up around, I don't know, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and I would just get right back to it. It was the most obsessive I have ever been about a collection, and I don't even know where that energy or force came from, to be honest with you.
So it says that some of them are acrylic and charcoal. Do those two mediums play well together?
No, actually, that's the beauty of it. Sometimes when I'm doing acrylic and charcoal, in this case, the charcoal was very much, I would start with a very loose under sketch there. And the sketch on the final painting was not necessarily the sketch that I started with. Again, kind of, you start with the initial vision, you retool it until you like it. And then I would go over the whole thing in black liner, with acrylic ink. I would go over that whole sketch with acrylic ink and let it dry, and then saturate the canvas again. So that purple wash back there would have been made when the canvas was wet, the whole surface wet, so that it had that really soft feel to it. And I'd wait for that to dry. And then by then you kind of have this almost like a cartoon image, right? Or a coloring book image where you have the lines, and now you just have to figure out how you want to fill it in. And so then you fill in the watercolor, you go over again, highly dilute acrylic watercolor, and then finish it off with the charcoal again. And you start putting in the details and the musculature and all of that stuff, and then varnish it and send it out the door.
Nice. Nice. I'm looking at feminine aspect too.
Yeah, let me pull that one up.
Yeah.
It's
And
another
so,
great piece.
the other one was a self-portrait. Did you have a model, or do you just kind of go off of, you just draw until you feel it?
I
Like on
think
feminine
this was
aspect.
based off, feminine aspect was based off, I think, a ballerina. I can't remember her name, but she was a ballerina that I was obsessed with at the time. These little obsessions, I'm telling you, they're great.
Yeah.
And actually, this piece can be displayed horizontally here. So right now, it looks like she's kind of being lifted towards the sky, breasts are up. But when you rotate the piece, it's almost kind of like The Exorcist, and, and she's like rising up through space, kind of belly up. But anyway,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I started there, and then I love an idealized form. I don't know why, but I started with just an image and kind of changed it as necessary. I'm obsessed with feet. You can probably, gosh, I wish these were a little bigger, because the feet, kind of like El Greco did with his hands, just long, exaggerated, expressive feet. There's so many bones and joints and like tendons, and feet are like totally the underrated version of hands. I'm just saying.
Right. Right. And feet and hands are very difficult to draw and sketch. So, and I'll have to say your feet are magnificent in this feminine aspect.
Thank you. I think so. She ended up going to, I think she ended up going to Germany.
Wow.
So I wonder
Yeah,
how
she
they
ended up
hung
in
her.
Munich.
I wonder if they hung her horizontally or vertically, because like you said,
I believe that she was hung as displayed on the website, because
okay,
that's my mark is up and down. But
gotcha.
we did briefly discuss Exorcist style, and I don't think that appealed as much.
Sure, sure. And it does change, it totally changes the whole, even the meaning of it, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
the subject is the body. It's not even necessarily her, right? It's like identifying with this feminine aspect of yourself. At the time, I was really struggling with self-image.
uh-huh.
And, oftentimes in the queer community, especially the gay community, right? Let's talk about gays just for a minute, is like, are you too masculine? Are you too feminine? Are you built enough? Are you skinny enough? Are you too hairy? Are you too old? Like there's all these like rigid standards and boundaries and norms that we impose upon each other as queer people, especially in the gay community. And it was like I had to figure out how to embrace my inner feminine aspect and be comfortable with myself as a human being, and like approach the world as like a fully formed person, yin and yang, male and female. It's all within.
And so when you were painting this, it was just like a self-discovery of your feminine side, and then what came out of it for you when you finished this piece or this series? I know you said you had a mental, or did you say a mental breakdown or an emotional breakdown?
Yeah. Yeah. I had a total mental breakdown. I was hospitalized that night.
Oh, wow.
I left the hospital after this crazy panic attack. I mean, it was just a total collapse. After 3 weeks, I guess, of, I've already told you this rigorous schedule, and all I could focus on was like this literal personal vision of hell, all of my trauma in one place. Um, I think I was discharged from the hospital 6 hours before the show opened. So I went home. I think I slept for 2 hours, woke up, made a drink, and left the house. And and um, I went to this show, and it was my second sold out collection. Was this show?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Fantastic
yeah.
work.
Was it healing for you at the end, after the hospitalization, all your paintings sold? You came out the other end. How?
With, I mean, it was very healing. It was so necessary. Like, you can't, guys, if there's one thing, is you just can't spend your life and your time giving brain space and heart space to all the unnecessary shit that you're carrying around. You just can't do it. You have to be fully self-actualized. You have to move forward in this life. And I think by the end of this entire collection here, I felt free and light. Um, and no, art doesn't make the demons go away, but it makes them a hell of a lot easier to live with and to like, hey girl, nice to see you. Coming around. All right, it's good. I know you'll go. Like it's like a much more casual interaction with your trauma than if you just let it fester.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why art is so healing on so many levels for so many different people. Because it, like, I guess I never thought about it. It allows you to sit with them easier. How you kind of, it seems like when you hear about therapy, you feel like you talk through it and then it's over, but it never really is over, is it? You just learn how to maybe ease with them or live with them, like you said.
Sure. I mean, I've been in therapy dedicated for like 4 years going steady, 5 years on and off with kind of a tumultuous relationship here, guys. Maybe on the same bus as your muse. But anyway, um, I think the best therapists are the ones that allow you to reach the conclusion that you already know. And for a lot of people, I do think that for them, it's check in, check out. I did my hour. I talked to somebody. I got it off my chest. Next thing. But I don't think that is effective at all. That may be counterproductive, actually. When I leave my therapy sessions, I'm almost thinking about this stuff in the back of my head for like a week, 2 weeks. And it gives you a self-awareness that you can carry with you throughout your life. It's not a cure-all. It's more of like oh, I just noticed that happened, or why am I feeling like this? Like, am I really reactive right now, or am I scared of something? Like, it just gives you a moment to sit with yourself and understand yourself more.
So do you think, as somebody that goes through therapy religiously now, so to speak, do you think everybody should be in therapy? Do you think that's something that we're all missing? Because I've done like marriage counseling but I haven't done like true, like deep, deep therapy. And Todd would probably say, geez, Wes, you should. But I don't know. Is it something that I'm missing, by not doing it?
I don't want to characterize anything as missing
Sure.
from your life, Wes,
Right.
but you are whole and fully formed the way you are. But
And he's going to send you a bill after this, Wes. So
I hope so.
oh God, no, not at all. I appreciate you guys. No, I mean, I think in life everybody needs a good accountant and a great therapist. We all have our shit, right? Like we all have stuff that hurts us, even if we're not explicitly aware of it. Or, I mean, do we have body image issues? Do we constantly apologize for ourselves in a work setting? Or are we never good enough? Is there imposter syndrome? I mean, everybody has their shit, right? And everybody needs somebody, even if it's not a therapist or a trained somebody, everybody needs somebody that they can fall apart with. And then in doing so, also get put back together with. I mean, it's a really beautiful thing, but you have to be willing to fall apart first.
Tenet wants to acknowledge our media sponsor, New Magazine. That's NUE. You can follow both the national and the Denver edition of New Magazine on Instagram. The national edition can be found at new_magazine, and the Denver edition at new_Denver_magazine. And I want to share with you something very exciting. Check out the newly launched New Denver Gallery Guide. Look for the signage that says New Denver Gallery Guide that has a QR code. Scan it with your phone, and you have instant access to a comprehensive digital guide to Denver's finest galleries and exhibitions. Find this QR code in your favorite gallery, hotel, or coffee shop as you visit and explore Denver. Thanks for listening.
I'm Christopher La Fleur, and you're listening to the Tenet Podcast.
So we've been digging deep here this evening.
Yeah.
And you've been very open with us, which we always appreciate. And vulnerability always plays into fantastic work. Talk about vulnerability in your own work and how that comes about. Like, is it easy to go to that place and be vulnerable, or does it take some time, or is it a work in progress? How does that work?
I mean, that's a great question. Like, vulnerability and authenticity, like that's the hallmark of good work. Um, is it hard to go to that place? Yeah, it's really hard to go to that place. Sometimes because you're facing down the barrel of having to be honest with someone, right? Maybe a stranger, you're making work for other people to view, and you're being totally naked with them right now. Um, on the other hand, sometimes you're staring down the barrel of yourself and you have to be fully honest and whole with yourself, which, I mean, the biggest lies we tell in our life are the ones we tell ourselves. And so this vulnerability that it really is for the artist, it is a blessing and a curse, but it is essential. If your work is authentic and you're bold enough to put it out there, you're going to reach somebody else who it was meant to reach. If you're spending your life and your time making, I don't know, TJ Maxx art, like something you can go to IKEA and get on your wall, right? Like what is the point of spending your time doing that? What are you really saying? And I think what you're saying is not much at all. Why would you live a life where you're not saying anything?
I think for some people it's hard to express, on canvas or on paper or even a photograph or whatever, express what they're feeling. Cause I don't know if maybe it's the fact that they don't feel like they have the skills to express it, in a way. But, I think for myself, I think it's really hard to be vulnerable and expressing myself through photography. And I don't think I've ever maybe I never took the opportunity to do it because I guess I never thought of it. I do a lot of landscape stuff, but I never thought of like a personal exploration of my own psyche, my own fears in a photographic sense. So it's interesting to hear you talk about that.
I mean, my therapist has asked me this many times. And so, maybe I will send you an invoice, but at the end of the day, what does it look like? What does your art look like when you actually put your full self in there? We talk about magic a lot. That's a big part of the secret sauce is this vulnerability. What does your photography look like when you're facing down your fears? Or what does your photography look like when you're talking about, this trauma or core memory that you've been carrying around for so long? How do you explore that and get cozy with it? That's magic.
I love that. I'm going to have to really think about that. And, because I don't know if I don't think I've ever, I've done some kind of, like when I was in college, some photography that was different than everything else I've ever done, but I'm not even sure they were totally self-expressive. I think they were more like trying to find some artistic view, something that was a little different than what I've been doing. So I'm definitely going to have to give that some thought because it's an interesting, I guess, practice to put in. And so I'll have to get back with you because
please do. Let's do a follow-up in 6 months. I want to know about this.
Okay. Pressure's on.
Yeah. Pressure's on, buddy.
Todd, do you think you've done that? Maybe in your college years, as a commercial photographer, it's a little different, but have you done that?
I don't know that I've explored anything to the nth degree. Going to commercial art school fucks a lot of things up for like your artistic endeavors because it's all about generating income as opposed, you're being creative on some level, but a lot of it is what I call disposable photography, right? You're selling a service or a product. And like I always joke with people, I say that a lot of the imagery that I make, it has the lifespan of most things that you have in your refrigerator currently. Like that's it, it's disposable. It gets gobbled up and then spit out. So, the Core Mother project is about as far as me exploring, saying something, doing something in that vein. And that's why at this juncture, I've been, kicking around a bunch of different ideas that I want to work on.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this shakes out because it's definitely something I'm interested in exploring here in the next 9 months to a year outside of my other realm of work, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of work, I want to look at a whole other series of yours, Christopher.
Let's do it.
This one is called Disco Tits. Let's talk about this and how this all came about.
Ooh, let's do. Disco Tits is juicy. She is one of she's my girl. Yeah. So how did Disco Tits happen? She was actually a total one-off. I'm not gonna lie. Like her origin story is like the most anticlimactic ever. Again, kind of like King of Peace. She was part of this series of just classical explorations that I was doing to improve my technique. And I just took it way too far. And we went from like this really pretty, like, you know, 3 foot high drawing of some classical bust to this exploration of femininity and pop art and empowerment. Disco Tits was picked up and she was put on the Jones Soda 2023 Rebel Labels Pride Project this year. And a big part of what really got her on the bottle is, in my opinion, is this look that she has. I modeled her off of Girl with a Pearl Earring. And I think you can probably see a little bit of that influence there, but hopefully not too much. But that's what she was modeled on. And I think Girl with a Pearl Earring, the shortcoming of that painting, like, yes, it's gorgeous, awesome. She's too approachable. Like, she just looks too sweet and nice. And I wanted to create a strong, empowered femme that just, she's looking at you from across the room and she's clearly hot. Like, she's got plenty to say, and all she's doing, you can't tell if she's mad, if she's sizing you up, if she's happy. Like, what is that look on her face? Is she curious about you? Is she disdainful? Like, and from there, like, this idea just kind of took root in my brain after Disco Tits was put on the Jones Soda bottles. It kind of marked a turning point for me just professionally in general, where it was one of those, like, you have to fully commit now. This is your life. You are serious. This has happened. And so I started doing a series, just exploring pop art and what it meant to me. Because for the long time, I thought pop art was completely irrelevant. I thought that it was, like commercial art. I thought it was, kind of disposable. It had a 15-minute time span. But exploring pop art through Disco Tits and coming to realize the immediacy and relevancy of pop art in our culture. I have to tell you, man, when people see her, no one can stay ambivalent. And I think this is the magic of Disco Tits, is that when people see her, they want to be her, or they don't understand her, or they think she's cool. Like, she's the cool girl everybody wants to hang out with at prom, or like, everybody has a reaction and interaction with her when they see her. Nobody stays ambivalent. And that is really satisfying for me, because I think I read somewhere the average visitor in a gallery or a museum spends like less than a minute and 30 seconds with a piece of artwork. And so for people to like walk up to her and project onto her and like, who are you? What are you trying to look at me? Like, what is this? Like, it's so gratifying. She's great. She's one of my all-time favorite pieces.
Yeah, and you'd be hard pressed just to walk by her and not check her out, right? I mean, you would spend a little bit of time with her. Maybe, maybe not everybody, but I think if you had a bunch of different paintings in there, this one would, because of the boldness of the colors, which I love, the palette. I think you'd be hard pressed to pass it without looking at it and spending a minute with it, over a minute with it, like a minute and a half.
I would hope so. I would hope so.
Right. No, but you're right. People, and I do it too. Like, if I'm going to a gallery and I can pass by a lot of stuff and not, and that's the worst kind, right? Because you pass by it because it's not saying it, it's not evoking anything in you. So you just walk on by, but then it's nice to, have something that stops you in your tracks. And this is one of those pieces, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, she lives in a series right now on my wall at home. I do hope somebody acquires them as a set, because there are 4 right now. And they just like as a set, they're so striking. I really hope somebody gets all of them as a set. So yeah, she's one of my all-time favorites. I don't even know what else to say about her. I love the gal.
So are you done with the series, or are you going to continue to revisit it?
Mm, I mean, the fact that she was a one-off, you know, a year and a half ago now, I think. I thought I was done with her, but this might end up being a torrid love affair, guys. I don't know. I think as the future kind of moves forward, she's going to kind of come into her own. I think she's different from my other contemporary bodies of work in a way that I can't quite name right now. And just because of that, I want to keep exploring her world and I want to further develop her as a character and a person, not just as this, you know, this painting or series of paintings. I really want to give her more life.
So let's talk about naming your paintings. I mean, obviously this one's called Disco Tits, and probably pretty apropos for the piece, but some of your other pieces like Eat the Rich was named something different. How do you go about naming your pieces? And maybe Disco Tits in particular.
Yeah, so actually, only one person has ever accurately identified the origin of Disco Tits. Her name is a Tovlo song that I just love. The song is a vibe, and when I listen to that song, I feel like this girl in the painting. I feel fun and cool and hot and sexy, and you know, you're the belle of the ball. And I loved that, and so I was like, cool. She reminds me of this song. She is this song. She's Disco Tits. Um, for me though, naming, like this is one of the biggest elements of my work. And it's so important, especially with some of the sour cube pieces is right. I wanted to be a writer for a long time. I spent a lot of time writing and developing kind of this wordplay, and the pieces are titled in a way that many of them are a double entendre, or they allude to or unify an idea that like it probably won't make sense if you don't know the title of the piece. There's one, I have it on my wall right now. What's it called? Velvet Lizard, America First. And it's a narrative about illegal immigration and what it means to be an illegal alien, and how the system treats you. It's a sour cute piece and it features a giant green alien. And I thought Velvet Lizard is just like a super cool name, right? Like it's got like that kind of sleek edge to it. And I thought aliens could be a Velvet Lizard. That's cool. But the narrative here is America First. That was the policy at the time. This was our stance towards immigration. And it was just, I don't know, it seems to fit with other pieces. I mean, I'm trying to think of some of the other piece names. Defense Against the Dark Arts was one. A lot of these are pop culture references. There's a lot of musical references in there, and Latin. I am a big fan of Latin because it forces people to stop and they're like, wait, what the hell does that mean? Like I've got to pull out my Google Translate here to understand this piece. But also it kind of has like this grand sort of, I don't know. It just has, when somebody sees something in Latin, it already comes loaded with other meanings. And so the piece names, naming my work is probably one of the hardest aspects of my job. And usually it either starts, like a piece will either start with the name of the piece, or the name of the piece will be the absolute final thing that happens. But it's never in between. It's always first or last.
It's That's either alpha or omega, huh?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Disco Tits. I want to, Wes will hate me for doing this, but what do you feel when you look at this piece, Wes?
Oh man. Yeah. I hate when you put me on the spot like that.
I know. I knew you would hate that, but
I think a couple things. What do I think about? Well, I love the human form. I love the naked body. So there's that, right? And what is it about that I love? But I've always navigated towards the human form in that sense. Like Christopher said, her gaze just speaks volumes, but you can't really figure out what she's saying. Like you're drawn to it because you don't know really what's going on. You have to like try to figure it out. And then the color palette I love. What do I feel? I'm definitely like interested. Like when I see this, I'm like, okay, I'm in. I want to know more. Right? Just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? Did I answer your question?
Yeah. I mean, it's your answer. So there's no right or wrong.
Okay, good. I got
It's
an
just how
answer.
you felt.
Yeah.
I just feel those contempt of those eyes.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it's that girl that I thought was really attractive, but I don't know that I have the tool set to like break down that barrier, that wall. That's the vibe that I get. So if I'm even going to go there, I got to be on my A game, man. Like I got to figure out how I'm going to break that pouty mouth into a smile and get her hip to my nonsense, my silliness, right? Like my way in is humor, but she doesn't seem like she has a lot of humor about her, like, you know. So I got to figure out how I got to weave and bob to get in, to break it down and to get in there, right? But those eyes, man, those eyes kill me because I've seen those eyes before, and it's a huge, like, oh man. So that's what I feel from it.
I love that.
Well, and you, Todd, I think when you and I met and we had our first short interaction, she was on the wall, all four of her, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was very taken with it, and then, you know, our conversation, you're very charismatic, and we just had a really lovely chat. I was like, oh, I love this guy and I love the work. So it was the whole package right then and there.
Thanks, Todd. That's sweet.
So talk about this partnership with Jones Soda, how that came about, and what that did for you as far as artistically, like your licensing. Like, I kind of want to know the nuance of how that works with a corporate or commercial partnership. You're getting paid money for them to be able to use this image, or how did that work? How did that come about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, they actually approached me. One of my friends who I had worked with in a previous life ended up at Jones, and we were kind of like mutual bromance from long distance forever. This guy is super, super talented. He makes like watch gears and stuff, but from scratch. Like it blows my mind, like the tiniest stuff. So anyway, he is also an artist and just blows my mind. But we've been following each other for several years after we had worked together. And she just dropped me an email one day and was like, "Hey, we're doing these bottles. We do these Pride bottles every year. You know, we want your work on it. You know, let's do something." And initially, she wasn't going to be the piece that was featured on the bottle. The piece originally was going to be King of Peace, but I don't think that there was a good crop. There was not a good version of King of Peace that really suited the bottle. And so when we had her on the bottle, it just clicked. She was just perfect for it. She has like megawatt personality, charisma. So that's how she ended up on the bottle. But you know, since then, it really has been transformative. Yes, I got a lot of interaction out of it. I gained, you know, new followers on the gram and a level of exposure that I hadn't before. But for me, it was almost like a career defining moment where we're no longer, you know, just a baby artist. We're no longer in our first couple of years of business scraping by. There was a feeling of recognition and achievement. I don't usually slow down to appreciate how far I've come in life. It's always on to the next thing. But this was very much a moment in my life where I sat for like a month and I was just excited about it like a little kid. Like I was wearing the t-shirt, I had the merch, like I was telling everybody I knew about it. Like it probably was annoying. Like I probably sounded like one of those guys who's like a vegan and he does CrossFit. Like I just couldn't stop talking about this achievement. And if nothing else, it changed my mindset about myself as a business person and an artist. How does that work practically? They did pay me a small stipend for it. There was a lot of work involved in, you know, back and forth, working with graphic designers and stuff like that to make the bottle come to life. It's also a augmented reality bottle. So there was a virtual component to that bottle as well. So there was a little back and forth and they gave me a small stipend, but for the most part, I was just so high on this partnership, and especially the recognition, in America, right? The ultimate recognition you can have is commercial. It's being mass market and being in front of people. And I'm not one of those artists who is going to back away from, oh, my art is more valuable than any amount of money and I'll never be a sellout. Like, much in the way of Andy Warhol, he was able to walk the line of art and commerce, and they can exist together, right? And so to me, I just felt like it was so gratifying. Like, I could walk into a store and see my work in a store, and that was crazy. So, yeah.
Right on. Hey, I want to talk about your process. I want you to describe how you go about coming to a new series or piece from idiogenesis to fruition. Describe that approach.
Yes. Okay. This is great. So idiogenesis is not a word. It's not a real word. I just was like, okay, I'm going to make up this word. It seems to make sense. Yes. What is that? So I think it starts with the total lack of an idea. Like, it almost starts with nothing, and you have no interest, and then it turns into obsession. And I can rarely, like, it's not something that I just wake up one morning and I'm like, oh, I'm going to explore this, and it's going to turn into this vast series of work and a whole narrative behind it. Like, no, it's very accidental. I think I get into these phases where I'll like dive down the YouTube rabbit hole for hours, and I'll just learn and learn and learn. And something will stick out to me that just carries with me. And it starts there. And then it becomes kind of this virus, right? It's infectious. And part of this idiogenetic process is really getting to know something, really getting in bed with it, learning the history, developing a kind of philosophy around it, right? Like, everybody says art, art has meaning. Well, what is the meaning? If you ask an artist, a lot of times they're going to tell you, oh, an emotion, or, this thing or that thing. But what is the actual meaning? You have to have a philosophy behind what you're doing, I think. And there has to be a guiding principle, if nothing else. At least for me, I work best in that way. Who am I to prescribe things? But after that, there is a visualization process. There can be. Right now, what does that visualization process look like? I have half of my studio is like a plastic pinned to a wall. It's like painter's plastic. And I have all these markers and paintbrushes that are also pinned to the wall. And whenever any random idea gets in my head right now, I literally write it on the wall. And so that is what that process looks like right now. But in the past, I mean, I've gone so far down the rabbit hole that I've written, little essays about things, or I'll have journals dedicated just to exploring a single concept or a few concepts, and literally grabbing anything out of thin air that kind of influences that idea at all. I don't know. I think it's a really cool process. It's kind of like being a raven, like just bird brain all the way.
That's interesting. So developing your own philosophy, and I'm assuming because you said you should have one, that you have one. Was there a process that you went through? Speaking of processes, was there a process that you went through to discover those, or did they obviously probably a lot of rabbit holes and self, I guess, exploration, but was there a process where you figured out your own personal philosophy?
Yeah. Actually that first 6 months with my little dwindling paycheck of a severance that I had gotten, it was all within that 6 month period, right? You're building the business, you're figuring out how to produce in mass and get out there, etc. I had to know without a doubt why I was going into business like that. If I didn't know that, then there was no sense in me doing anything. I might as well take my money, go to Vegas, and hope to hit the jackpot. Like, so for me, it didn't take very long at all. And it's my business motto as well. Art is war. And it underpins everything across my various visual styles, across my personal evolutions. What I believe wholeheartedly is that the function of art is war. And not all war in this sense is bad. We have to destroy things if we're going to create new things. We have to wage war on currently accepted paradigms or things that are antiquated and outdated. Like, the function of art is it's so vital to who we are as a species. And why do we make it? We make it to wage war of some kind.
I'm glad you spoke to that because I was going to ask you, because it's right on the front landing page of your website. I really wanted to know what that was all about. So,
Throughout history, art has meant something different to each era, right? And I think a lot about the American West. It comes up a lot in my mind, actually, is the function of the artist, the Hudson School, all of these landscape painters, right? They went west, and the primary function of their work was to document. There weren't cameras back then. They were documenting these grand, idealized landscapes because nobody knew what they looked like. And, we're actively trying to get people to spread that way. And so let's enchant them with these incredible depictions of things that people have never seen before. Or, and in that sense, right, we're waging war on the unknown. We're sharing a new vision of a way of life or a way of living, kind of this, we're waging war on, waging war on the unknown. And it's like that throughout history, right? We can see art as a function of Christianity or religion in general. And what are they trying to wage war on with those pieces? As art has evolved and become more self-aware and less driven by patrons and the establishment controlling a narrative, now we're looking at art as war on society and war on established norms. There's a great uneasiness right now that I feel, just the energy everywhere I go. There's a great uneasiness, and collectively we all know. I think you know it and I know it. Everybody knows it right now. Things cannot stay the way they are. And there's this uneasiness about, well, if they can't stay the way they are, then what does this look like? Well, great. That's where great art starts. Art is war. Let's wage this war and create what we think it should look like without people articulating these ideas in a way that, others can understand. We don't have a means of starting a conversation. So let's wage that war. Let's get the conversation started.
Love that. What things or takeaways can you relate to our listeners that you've learned in the last 5 years of going all in on this art business? Anything that sticks out in your mind that you'd like to share that has been pivotal, or was something that you kind of had to just learn on your own that you think is important that you could relate to other up and coming artists?
Yes. Don't undervalue yourself. Don't let others tell you the value of your work, and don't value yourself based on your work. Those are three big things that I would pass on to other artists. There's so much advice that I would just want to give. It's not enough to know what you're good at, but also be very hyper aware of what you're not good at. Have discipline in your life, even if it's one accomplishment every day. I make a habit of making my bed every day. And I know that at the end of the day, at least I achieved one thing. It could be the worst day ever. And artists need a sense of discipline. There's so much advice. I could go on. This could turn into a TED Talk.
Yeah. So obviously routine is part of your life, at least on some level. What is like your regular routine? Like, you're creating all the time, right? I saw somewhere that you produce about 175 works of art every year. That's a good number. But to do that, you have to be disciplined, which you just spoke about. Talk about your routine.
No, I think that's a great question. So my routine, a lot of people ask me, when do I sleep? You're doing so much. When do you sleep? I actually sleep a lot, and I think that's fundamental to any good, successful business or routine. So I try to get like 8 hours solid of sleep. When I wake up in the morning, usually the first thing I do in the morning is work out with my partner. My day is pretty freeform. I work from home like a lot of folks now. So throughout the day, I'll make sure that I'm having time, or a dedicated day even, to just running the bread and butter business, making sure the events are in order, making sure there's new clients in the door, stuff like that. But within almost every day, I try to steal some time for myself, even if it's a half hour or 1 hour here and there that I can just pop into the studio, work for a bit. There's usually always an element, at least recently, there's always an element of trying to get outside, especially summer. Like, I hate being next to the window. Get me outside. I've also added, like, I try to set aside a little time for meditation every day, and that seems to be pretty useful. I'm not going to say it's one of those like cure all salvos, but I find it's useful in my life. And then other days, I have no routine at all. It's like 5 days a week, I would say I have like a great rigorous routine. The 2 days a week are the most important days to me because that's when I let my mind wander and I do whatever I want. I'll work on an art project or I'll go outside and I'll draw or whatever. So balancing this like intense routine with no routine.
I want to back up just a quick second. You talk about meditation being an important aspect of your life. So what does meditation look like to you? How does that manifest itself?
Well, I've only been working on it for like 2 or 3 months, but I think a lot of people have this idea that like you sit there in total silence and you're not supposed to move and you sit right up and somehow like magic happens. But I don't think my experience has been like that at all. It's very much like right now I'm listening to more guided ones because I still would struggle with, 20 minutes in a quiet room, not fidgeting type thing. That I would struggle with that. So I have a bunch of YouTube channels that I follow and they have guided meditations you can do. But I think the real key idea here is to be aware of oneself. And it really is amazing. So I'm going to blame meditation for this, but I quit caffeine cold turkey a few weeks ago. This is a great example. And as I started, like week 3 or week 4 of getting in touch with myself and just observing my general state of being, I noticed like I had this constant background hum, like vibration in my entire body of anxiety, like all the time. And I'm like, dude, like I'm sleeping well, I'm eating well. Like what the hell is going on? Like, why do I feel like this? And I just felt too fast. So I was like, whatever, if caffeine's making me go too fast, then I'm going to notice in a couple of days, like, and I'll feel better or I'll feel worse. And I just felt better. Like after following up on that kind of anxiety and discovering this uneasiness in me, I followed up on it over the next few days to just check in with myself again and see, how do I feel? Where am I at? What are my thoughts looking like? And it's a great tool because we never give ourselves the benefit of time. We give everyone else in our lives the benefit of our time, but we never feel some for ourselves. And I think it's really important. People do it in different ways, right? If it's not meditation, maybe it's prayer or, everybody's mindful in their own way. And I think it's about self-discovery and being non-judgmental.
I think that's key. I don't know if I ever even thought about that, but being not self-judgmental, I can't even say it. Self-judging, self-judgmental is an important aspect of it because I would imagine, and I'm not one that meditates I'm not one that meditates necessarily. And I could see where I could be in my head meditating about and judging myself. So I could see that as an important aspect of that.
Yeah.
And I'll give you and I think Todd's heard this story. I probably said it on the podcast once. I meditated once. I was listening to Sam Harris and he was talking about how meditation is really good for him. And he was talking to somebody that didn't believe in meditation. And so he had him work through this whole exercise. And I happened to be driving back home from Sicily. Remember this story, Todd? And I thought, I'll just go along with it. So, he said, like, close your eyes. Of course, I closed my eyes for a second, then I opened because I'm driving. But I did everything else when he talked about breathing and, just, relaxing and, when he talked in a nice soft voice. And I could feel myself kind of going in this like kind of trance state, but I, obviously I'm aware of what's going on. And I I think we did it for like, I think he did it for like 3 minutes, 5 minutes or something like that. It was very short because it was on his podcast and he was trying to show this guy that didn't believe in it, the effects it could have. And the weather was shit. And usually I'm an anxious driver when the weather's crap because I'm aware of my own mortality. And I drove the 8 hours home just totally chill. I mean, it even when I got to like close to Rapid City and the snow was blowing across the road and it was not white out, but nearly white out, I was like total chill the whole way. So I'm definitely a believer that it can have a profound effect. I just like, I find I'm too busy to take that time for myself and put it into a meditative practice. And once kind of like being, what do we say? Marijuana or drug curious.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm meditative curious as well, along with a lot of other curiosities in my life, I'm sure. But I love the idea, and I never thought a whole lot about being self-judgmental. And I think that's a key that somebody will take away, if not just me. So
if you'll let me break your brain a little
yes.
bit, if I have permission here,
by all means.
I think meditation teaches you that the moment of calm that you just had, that 8 hours driving with your blood pressure not being raised, meditation teaches you that is your actual state. That is not an anomalous state. That is your base state. And when you come to realize that, and you realize that is the baseline, that you should always, that's who you are, then you start to realize that all of the excitement and all the external factors and everything out of your control, those are the anomalous states. And if there's one thing that people should at least try, just try it. Okay. The worst you lose is 20 minutes on a Saturday afternoon. Just try one session meditating and don't go into it with any ideas of what you think it should be. Just do it. I think more people would like it than not.
Yeah. I love that idea. I love that. And once again, I think I'm going to have to take a moment and look at that. Man, this has been a great therapy session for me. I got a feeling I owe you a check. I want to talk about one other thing. You said early on in the podcast that you are a vegetarian or vegan? Vegetarian. How did that manifest? And then what was the overall result of becoming a vegetarian for you personally?
Oh man. Okay. Great question. So where did it come from? The origin story here is great. I wanted to piss off my dad. He was like meat and potatoes. We lived in Greeley, right? Cattle rendering plants and agriculture. My dad was like meat and potatoes 3 times a day. And me, I'm an angsty young person. I'm ready to like, let's start ruffling feathers here. And I thought the easiest way to fuck with him is just, I'm done eating meat. And that's how it started. How it went is out of this really crucial time in my life, and as well for my entire generation, right? I'm just entering high school. I'm getting out of middle school, and there's a deep awareness in my generation in school at that time was something's fucked up with the climate. Like things are not okay with the earth, and we don't really know what. You're too young to get it, but we've got to do something. And the more I just looked into it, I found out, the carbon impact of meat and industrial farming, and also the cruelty on a mass scale. If we treated and commodified other human beings in the way that we treat and commodify animals, what a horrible, awful group of people we would be. And so I think it was early on a real values misalignment for me, where I was like, okay, cool. So I have the added win of pissing off my dad, but actually this sits well with me as opposed to partaking in the system I just don't like. How is it now, 21 years later? So diabetes runs in my family. I do not have that. I think a tendency towards weighing more than less, kind of runs in the family. I don't have to struggle with that, fortunately. I think there are numerous brain benefits to taking vegetarianism seriously. if you're doing it right. For a long time, I was living off like Doritos and packaged food, like best diet ever, not. Yeah. So when you're actually doing it right, you're hitting multiple points on the checklist of living well. And I think my quality of life is really good because I don't eat meat. But I'm also not like a pusher. I just want to make that clear. Like I'm not that girl who's like, I'm gonna go to dinner with you and guilt you about eating like a steak all night. Like that's not me. No, eat your steak, chill out. It's all cool. But if you have a minute and you want to talk about it, I'll be here.
You know who Jordan Peterson is, obviously.
Yes.
His daughter had all sorts of physical ailments, like seriously, like almost death of food allergies and stuff. So she went the opposite way, where all she ate is meat. And she basically made the same claims that you did. Like she feels better. Everything kind of went away. And I'm not trying to counterpoint you, but I just found it interesting because I just happened to run across some stupid YouTube short about her eating habits. And I heard, months ago, Jordan Peterson say the same thing when I'm going through my death scroll of YouTube. And so I just thought it was interesting, but I was really curious about, because I know a few vegetarians, but I don't sit there and talk culinary advice with them. It's just who they are and what they do. And I eat pretty much everything and anything, as long as I like it. And I'm trying to keep, because I have diabetes, I'm overweight and I'm old. I'm trying to change my style. I'm not necessarily planning on being a vegan or a vegetarian. But I was definitely curious because, if this is something you've been following for a while, I was kind of curious of, what was the impact. And so thanks for sharing that. That's amazing.
Of course. I would just be wary of anybody who's going to try and prescribe you a lifestyle that fixes everything. I'll happily convert any carnivore to vegetarian anytime. But what's most important, I think, is that we're making the healthy lifestyle choices we need to that align with our values. And some people don't want to be vegetarians. Some people are going to claim that eating 10 pounds of meat a day is perfectly great and that's how the body should be, and it's paleo and all this stuff. At the end of the day, it may be as much psychological as it is biological.
The whole placebo effect is a real thing. So yeah, I can have that, where your mental mindset starts changing things. Just the power of the mind itself. We talk about placebo drugs all the time, but it is a real thing. It can cure. And that's why prayer sometimes really can have a lasting effect on you too, because it's that kind of, and not saying placebo is a negative thing or a fake thing. It's just a real deal that, through prayer, change can happen, but it can be attributed to, what's happening in your brain and your brain reacting to it and sending out neurotransmitters and chemicals to have an effect on your body, so I truly believe in that. I just really, I find it interesting. And so once again, I think, and there was something else I was going to say, and I don't remember what, it escaped me, but thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Todd?
Just so you know, Wes Brown, I love that your statement of I'll eat anything as long as I like it.
It's true. As long as I like it.
It is true, man.
I don't like garlic. So, and your wife does, and God bless her. And I'll eat her food and I will eat it and enjoy it because she tells me to. That's not true. She's a great cook. Heavy on the garlic though. But yeah,
you're a garlic family, man.
Yes, you are. And God bless you for that. Because I think garlic has some really good positive thing. And I don't eat enough garlic. And maybe that's why I'm the way I am. I'm not eating enough garlic. Or I'm eating too much meat is probably. And now, here's what I was going to say. I'm surprised I'm not a freaking vegan, because I literally can pass by a cattle truck and feel like deeply sad, because I know the chances are they're going to Greeley or Sioux Falls, at the big plant in Sioux Falls, right? And I feel really sad, but I'll take that exit that stops at Lone Star, and have a steak. So I don't know. There's some internal conflict in me, but I do love cattle. I love animals all along. I hate to see death. And, if you death scroll anything, shorts, you're going to come across some lion killing a gazelle or something like that. And I always feel bad for the animals that are getting hurt. And so and Ezra Klein is another one who's anti meat market, of any kind. So I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's a writer and podcaster, but he really carries the torch for, getting rid of like slaughterhouses and stuff like that. Cause he's like you, we think he knows that we treat animals in a horrible way. And I totally agree.
Well, and the magic, right, with the system, as with art, is what you see on your dinner plate. You have no knowledge of everything between when you see the cattle truck passing by and you feel sad for the animal. All of the magic and the secret sauce in the middle, nobody sees any of that. And so the fact that you empathize even with the animal and you realize, oh, wow, sorry, buddy, something bad's about to happen to you. Like, you've got a leg up on most, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up in a ranching community, so I'm well aware of what happens. I've been to butchering and I'll use the word, I've murdered turkeys for a day because I was working at a goose farm and we were processing a bunch of turkeys, and I was in the kill room for like an hour. And that was the most surreal experience I've ever had, because it was slitting throats and there was so much blood. It became super surreal, and like that messed with my head a little bit. So, but yeah, I really love animals a lot, but man, I grew up in South Dakota. I ate beef and pork and chicken. So there we go. Todd, get me out of my cycle.
Hey, man, let's just keep on.
Are you enjoying the conversation?
Hole, man. Yeah, I am.
Okay, good. Christopher, are you enjoying the conversation, or am I just a nutcase for you?
No, I think this is great. This is a great meeting of the minds that we've got going on here.
Yeah. And Wes, I'd like you to meet Christopher, your new life coach.
I think so. Jesus Christ.
I should not coach anyone.
I tell you what, though, I'm serious. He makes and I think other people will, if you're listening to this podcast and you're not having moments of like, oh my God, I have to think about this. Like, I really have to consider what Christopher just said, because it's pretty profound. I think you need to like rewind and listen again, and then maybe listen again, then share it with a friend and listen together, because I love what you're saying, Christopher. And I I'm half joking, but I'm serious. I like, you give me some interesting things to think about. So thank you
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime. Anytime.
You have had a fair amount of success in the 5 years you've been doing this, but we all know that being an artist, part of that equation is rejection. How do you deal with rejection?
Honestly, anymore, I'm just like, okay, cool, it happened. Like, next one. I think I guess if there's a question in there that we're unpacking, I would say to any entry-level artist or somebody who's starting out on their own and they want to get out there, don't take rejection personally, because you don't know that person's metrics or the standard, or, even the fact of, should you be trying so hard to fit into someone else's hierarchy? These are all questions you need to be asking yourself before you go home and you take those rejection letters and you start crying over them. Honestly, rejection is a beautiful thing, because if it says no, you're probably meant to find somewhere else. And I don't know. I guess I'm detached from rejection anymore. I think what really hurts is like when you're so close to finishing something, or you've got like a deal in the works, or, something like that. And then right at the very end, when you think it's going to go through, then there's the rejection. Like, that is what really stings. But if you're going to start off in this world and you're going to choose the entrepreneurial path, or you're going to choose the path of the artist, you know what? Just put on your big girl heels and get used to it. Like, it's going to happen. You're going to hear a lot of no's before you hear a couple yeses.
Yeah. And, for every no is one step closer to a yes, and I don't remember who said that. Somebody else said that. That's not my words, but it's true. It's a numbers thing. And the more no's you get, you're getting closer to yes eventually, because you're going to find your audience, that person that like, I want to buy this piece, or I want to show you in my gallery. I want to show you at this, this art exhibit. yeah, if you can go with that mindset, not that it still doesn't sting, but man, I think you're far ahead.
Right. Right.
So how do you go about selling most of your art?
Um, social media is of course a big part of that. I think, people want to see it, obviously. In-person events, there's no substitute for them. You can scroll on Instagram all day long, but you never get a sense for the piece. You never get to touch it or be with it. So I would say a large part of my business, it is, it's Instagram, it's social media, it's marketing myself, but there's the huge in-person component, just constantly getting out there, constantly having shows. If nobody's going to invite me to a show, then I'll host my own. And then the final bit is word of mouth. And I would tell any artist thinking about making it a full time is one of the most important things that you need to protect and covet as an artist is your reputation. And you need to keep your reputation clean, and you need to treat every single person you encounter like they're your next buyer, and take the time to make the connection, because that's where sales are made. At the end of the day, people can really like an art piece, but what they're investing in is you.
That's great advice. So I have a question that pertains to selling art. I see a lot of these photos on your Instagram. Does having really nice pecs and a six pack, does that equate to like selling more art? Because if it does, I got to lay off the ice cream and start doing something different.
I won't say that it hurts. Yeah.
If I had a body
know.
like that, I would be posting on Instagram all the time.
Thank you. Yeah, my fiance's clients, they love it, I'm told. So give the people what they want.
Well, you're easy on the eye, Christopher. You're easy on the eye.
Thank you so much.
Even for an old straight guy like me, you're easy on the eye.
I'm blushing over here. You got to make me stop.
That was awesome, Todd.
We always ask this question. How do you go about pricing your art?
Oh, that's a great question too. A couple ways. There's always like the gallery off the wall price. Like you're showing in the gallery, you know what you want to make, you add 50% because that's whatever they're going to take. So for gallery price, it's going to be on the high side. A lot of times, especially if work is older and I'm just freaking tired of looking at it, I'll have a pop-up event where everything is marked way down and maybe somebody takes something home. How do I actually price it? I think I'm terrible at pricing my work, to be honest with you. I think a good formula, this is a great piece of advice that I myself never follow. But a great formula would be take the cost of your materials and the cost that you would apply to your time and multiply it by 7.
Oh, wow.
And generally that'll get you in the right sort of area to kind of cover the cost of your supplies and your studio rent. And, a lot of people, they undervalue their time, and you have to remember that social media marketing is your time, that sending those emails is your time. It's not just when you're picking up the brush, right? So I would say the rule of 7 is generally good enough, but you also have to have a fair amount of self-awareness. If you're a mid-career artist, you can price your work a lot higher. You've got more of that cachet behind you. I am not a mid-career artist. One day I hope to be. Unless my life is really short and in 5 years it's over. But if that's the case, that would really suck. Pricing my work wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, you always have to take into account kind of where you are in your career as well. So do I think that my work is worth $20,000? Sure. Oh, hell yeah. Am I there yet? Probably not. Like, you have to be a little realistic with yourself to make it in the marketplace.
So where does your work start? What price point or range, and what does it go up to at this juncture of the game?
I would say right now, a good average for me would be in the 2,200 to 2,500 range. I have some larger works that are closer to 8,000. And then, I always have the teeny tiny pieces on my Instagram too that are, they're made for anybody and they start at like $20. And so it's another one of those examples of know your consumer and know who you're marketing to, because if somebody likes you and they like their work, it doesn't matter if they have $1 million to spend. You should at least make something available to them that they can take home. And 10 years down the road, maybe they look at that little $20 thing they bought at a vendor market and they call you up and they're like, hey, do you have anything for like a $20,000 commission? And I'll be like, yeah, it started with a $20 bird.
Right.
What do you do with your money when you make a big sale?
That's a great question. I'm an artist, so I'm always playing catch up on my bills, like every other artist I've ever met. No, I think if I make a big sale, I always do at least one thing really nice for myself. I'll treat myself in some way, and whether that, does that look like renting a car and going to the mountains, or does that mean taking a spa day, or sometimes I'll buy myself like, oh, I got myself a nice watch. It was my first sale over $5,000 or something, something like that. But I'm also very pragmatic. I'm at a growing stage in my life. So usually if I get $1, the first thing off the top, any young artist should know is put it into a tax account so that you can pay the tax man. Then after that, you probably want to set something aside for yourself just to enjoy and live off. And the rest of it, frankly, gets rolled up back to the business. The business eats before I do. I love what I do. I don't have to eat every day. The business can eat every day.
Yeah, I heard somebody give advice that said, pay yourself first. Whatever. Yes. And maybe, and part of that is pay the tax man. I mean, you got to do that. Maybe pay the tax man first, then pay yourself first. But I thought that was great advice because what I did for a while is like, I'd take like 10% of my paycheck and put it into a different account or cash and hoard cash and then deposit or buy something that I wanted. But I always thought about like, when I deposit my check, I'm taking 10% right off the top for myself. So I thought that was a good way to think about it too.
Well, now my dad's on me now because I am advancing in age. I'm going to be an old wizened man soon. He's on me now. He says, you have to have a retirement account and you have to have another retirement account. I'm like, Dad, I am trying to we got to figure out bills and rent and all of these other things. The world is expensive, old man. And he's just like, no, got to get that Roth IRA.
That's right. You should have a Roth IRA. And then I think there's a benefit to having a traditional IRA, maybe not in your case since you're self-employed for the most part, but a traditional IRA, then you get more money working for you. But that Roth, you pay all the taxes up front. It's tax-free at the end. And yeah. And whatever, my mom was a school teacher, $88 a month. And when she passed, she had well over $300,000.
Well, I am
to live on.
Sorry to hear about that she passed away, but amazing for her for saving. I think we're kind of like the excess generation where I don't know. It may even be reverse psychology. We're all struggling so much that when we do get a buck, we just go hog wild and spend it all. Yeah. So I think my money mindset has changed a lot since I've gone over 30. Everything seems to have changed a lot.
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, it's just reality kicks in. So I'm with your dad, like save now for retirement. Although, as a painter, do you ever retire? I mean, you'll be painting until you're well in your 90s, maybe 100, and you'll be pumping out artwork. So maybe you don't need to, not that I'm telling you not to because your dad kicked my ass, but.
No. I think he's going to thank you for the advice. I'm sure he's going to love that. I mean, true, but then we're kind of getting into more of like a philosophical quibble of like, is doing what you love for your whole life work, blah, blah, blah. Right. We know for a fact that, Renoir died with a paintbrush taped to his hand. Like he literally just keeled over in his wheelchair in front of a painting one day. Like it is very highly likely that could be me. Like I could be Renoir at some point, but I also wouldn't hate having a Roth IRA just so that I don't have to constantly worry, like painting to painting, right. Like, is the merchandise selling? What's happening here? It would be nice as an elder millennial to be able to kind of coast a little bit more than maybe I normally would.
Yeah. And I think the problem with my generation, I'm the end of the boomers, right? So my dad, he believed that you never talked about finances. So he never taught me about finances because you couldn't talk about it because it was just, that was very private. So I never learned until I was later in life, and I'm playing catch up, and that it's a not a good place to be. Now I think I'll be comfortable, but yeah, I could have, if I started at 20, things would be a lot easier. Then I see articles like, you need to retire with $5 million. I'm like, that ain't even happening, buddy. So
That
I'll be
just
living in
seems so fantastical. Just that amount of money, right? I would be like, wow, I'm in Wonderland.
Right. That's how I feel. Like if you get $1 million, I think that's pretty good, depending on where you're living, right? If you're living in San Francisco, that ain't going very far. Or Denver for that matter for right now, but maybe things will change. Because property tax and rent or whatever is horrendous. So, but anyway, good. I don't know how we got on this. Thank you for letting me diatribe on that whole fucking subject. Thanks, Todd. Just kidding.
You're doing good, man. Keep
what do you
going.
do with your money. It's what you do with your money.
Yeah.
You get a big payday.
Yeah, it was all pertinent. It's all
my
good.
shit, when I got a big payday a couple months, I do sales. And so I'm commissioned. I got a big payday a couple months ago. That shit went right into savings. So cause I know then I had the best month I had since I started in the company. And then 2 months later I had the worst month. So it all evens out at the end, but yeah, put some money.
Well, congratulations on your great month.
Know.
That's awesome.
I know. The bad month kind of hurt a little bit because you were like, but then I was like, I got some money squirreled away. I was just thinking the rainy day would be down the road a ways.
Yeah.
So anyway, once again, I digress.
Hey, on your website, you offer a variety of merchandise with your art on it, which I think is really spectacular. Talk about that. How long have you been doing it, and has it been lucrative to put your art on various things, notebooks, bags, that sort of thing?
Yeah, great question. So I launched my line of merch, it's last year. I want to say it was I think it was late spring last year. I don't know. It all kind of blends together, but my commitment to my clients, especially, I only do originals. I work largely on commission, or, I meet you in person. I only originals. And so my commitment to my client is, your original will always stay original. I'll never do prints. So where does that income come from? And I really, really feel strongly that my work it really is commercial and art. It's right at that intersection of art and commerce. And it really lends itself well to products. If anybody's listening, I'm throwing this out in the universe right now. In 2024, this is me speaking to the universe, guys, I will have a major corporate brand partnership. I don't know if that's with an apparel brand. I don't know if that is, a limited line of packaging for, a cannabis brand or something, but my work lends itself so well to products. And now I think I have about 165 different products with my work on it. It's a lot.
It is.
But to answer your question also, there was a 2-part question there. Has it been lucrative? No, actually. It's a whole separate grind, you guys. I only have so much time. I'm one person, it's where does my focus go? Is it always on events? Is it always on art? Am I hustling the merch? There has to be a balance there. And I think going into launching my merch store, I had really lofty expectations. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be pulling $1,000 a month in my first month. Everybody's going to love this. I think my first month I did $12. And a lot of people don't realize the margins are not as advertised at all. I think I keep, after all the fees, taxes, everything included, I think the average sale, I keep between 17 and 23% of the net, not the gross. And so when you really pencil that out, it's probably $4 that I make on a bag, maybe $2 that I make on a journal, and the rest just goes straight to the manufacturer and the shipper and all of that. So if you're going to do merch, do merch and do it hard. But if it's going to be one of those side things, then you really need to evaluate the amount of time and effort that you're spending on it, because it may not turn out the way you want it to.
So you buying a lot of product up front, or is it kind of kind of like the Amazon type, they'll do books, print on demand kind of thing. Is it more like that you're selling merch, or do you buy, let's say 300, 400 units of, let's say, your bags, and then you're selling those at, a slight margin?
Yeah. So I can do both. I do not carry any inventory because like just with so many products, I wouldn't even begin to know. Like consumer psychology is one thing, but like a sizing chart, I can't. So it's like a retail version of print on demand. Yeah. It's
Okay.
a service called Threadless, and they started, it was like these two graphic artists, I think, who started Threadless. And they were like, well, I mean, our designs are cool, but like other people have cool designs too. So let's make a website and people can upload it. And I was like,
Gotcha.
yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's just kind of curious because there's multiple ways of going about it. And, I deal in ad specialty items, and I do have a couple of people that do, like, they'll sell merchandise out of their store and they order it through me, but they carry inventory, because they have to, because we don't do the print on demand kind of thing. Well, I guess we could do like embroidery print on demand, but like the bags or the zip up pouches and all that kind of stuff, we do in hundreds, units of hundreds, like 200, 500 minimum, 1,000, and the more you get, the bigger your margin. So I work with a couple of retailers like that where they sell their t-shirts or bags or whatever. And so I was just kind of curious how your approach was, because you carry a lot of inventory and then you take the risk of stuff not selling. If you don't have a cool design, which yours, obviously you have cool design, but if you have a bunch of merchandise in the back that's not moving, then that's a whole nother animal, right? And like you said, either be all in or maybe, not in at all, because it's going to take up your time. Let's say you have some zipper pouches and they're a huge hit, right? Now you're a shipping guy, because all you're doing is shipping out your product if you had a bunch of stuff. So I was just kind of curious how you went about it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't be bothered with shipping. I have to tell you, I have like shipping PTSD. Yeah, no, I watch some of these artists on Instagram and they like hand package and ship all their work and they like write the labels. And I'm like, dude, that's like, that's like hours and hours. And all you're doing is like writing on an envelope. Like, I can't. So yeah, it's nice to have a full service producer like that.
Yeah.
Um, in 2024, one of the like main things coming for me that I just keep speaking into the universe is I will have an employee, at least one. And I think if once I can start expanding the brand and I can really just focus on being me and making the work that I love making and doing what I love doing and outsource the rest of those things that maybe I'm not so good at, but I still love having, it's just going to be so much better.
Yeah.
I really need somebody who can get out there and actively get in front of people and place mass quantity orders and, hey, I want to order 25 bags and do them at my shop. Like that would be great.
Right.
But it's just, you can't do it all at one time.
So on your art, do you do the shipping on your own, or do you have somebody do it for you, or how does that work?
Usually I do the shipping myself. Honestly, like the most anxiety inducing part of my job is once work leaves the studio. And like if it's a small piece, I generally box it up myself. Like anything like below like 36 by 36, I'll take care of myself. But it's very worthwhile to have a shipper that you trust. I mean, I've shipped like 7 feet by 6 foot paintings to like Dallas before. And like the only other option I would have in my power would be like to drive it across the country in a U-Haul. Like just pay an expert, get it boxed up, know that it's going to arrive safely. Yeah. Get a good shipper.
Yeah,
for sure.
no doubt. That's good advice. Great question, Todd, by the way, too, about the merch.
Yeah, I'm exploring your website and I thought, wow, this is really interesting and it's cool that's directly through your website, but yet you don't have to touch any of it. People can just order it and then it gets drop shipped. But I think what I really appreciate you sharing is, just how little the profit margin is. So it's a numbers game, right? You got to do a lot of quantity. I think the idea of you partnering with some kind of brand though, man, I could see that really taken off. If it's the right fit, right? The right partnership. I could see your stuff on clothing or whatever that thing is that, you know, you hit on, um, very easily, very
Yeah.
easily. So I will, I'll put that out in the universe myself for you. How's that sound?
Thank you so much, guys. It takes a village. Let's get on some apparel or something. Let's do this.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
I totally,
skateboards and tennis shoes, man.
Oh, fuck yeah. I would love that.
Yeah.
yeah. Some
I mean, that
Vans with
shit
your
is,
design on it.
yeah, that'd be fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Skateboards and tennis shoes.
I
All
think that'd be
right. Well, if
great.
anybody's listening, any listeners out there, call me. Call me.
Straight up. Straight up.
I got just a handful of more questions for you before we leave off for the evening. I want you to talk about how important charity is and giving back as part of your business model. I know that you typically raise, I think I saw somewhere like around $100,000 a year with all the different things you do, from the events to your art and all that. So speak a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, 100%. After I overdosed, I was given like a literal second chance at life. Like, I should not be having this podcast conversation with you guys tonight. I should be dead. And after I came out on the other side, I was like, you look back on your life. It's such a big experience. If either of you have ever almost died, you'll know what I'm talking about. But you look back at everything you've done and you're like, what the hell have I been wasting my life on? Like, what am I doing to actually contribute? And the answer I kept coming up with was nothing. I'm really not adding anything of any value, you know, that can't be measured and quantified, right? And after having this like amazing second shot, like somebody upstairs really believed in me, I guess, because they were like, okay, well, you can go back now. I just had to do something with my life that like was meaningful and that positively changed people, and that also stood for what I stand for, which is community and leaving things a little bit better. I mean, I know we're talking about philanthropy, but day to day, it doesn't cost anything to help make somebody's life a little better in some way. And so, you know, in the sense that my wheelhouse is event planning and I know a lot of people and I'm really good at getting folks in a room, this is what I have to work with to make somebody else's life a little better. And I think this year, with every organization that I'm working with this year, the goal is $200,000 by the end of the year. And I think I'm really close. I'm like at 120 right now, which is a great place to be before the holidays. I would tell anybody who wants to raise money, don't just go represent a cause. Like don't just pick one, because there's like so many causes out there, right? Like, pick something that has truly, deeply affected you in a way that you can't ignore. And so for me, it's substance abuse. It's the environment. It's nurturing the next generation of kids. You know, like, this is what I want to spend my life doing. It's something meaningful. And it's, you know, it's not a lot of money, but it still helps other people.
That's fantastic. You just recently organized, or was the organizer for, the Festival for Life AIDS Walk and Run.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that and how long you've been involved with it, and, you know, educate us a little bit about where that money goes and what good it does in the community for the folks.
100%. No. So Festival for Life, AIDS Walk, it's the oldest and largest HIV AIDS fundraiser in Colorado. I think this year was our 36th year, and it was my first year being involved with the project. But it was also the first charity cause that I had ever raised money for. I think I was like 22 or 23, and I like woke up one morning and was like, I want to raise some money for somebody. And I heard about the AIDS Walk. I thought it was a great cause. I raised like $300. And so that was really like the first time I had ever like done anything like that. And then 7 weeks ago now, I'm friends with the executive director of the organization, and he gave me a call, and they were kind of in a pickle they had a couple staff members transitioning out and just kind of a huge brain drain where they needed somebody to kind of come in very last minute. Like I had no idea what I was walking into basically. It was a lot of like there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but nothing quite sticking together yet. So they called me and they're like, "Hey, can you help? Like we're in pretty dire straits here." And I was like, "Yes, like is this even a question? I can't believe you're calling me." And it was like the first return to a public festival since before COVID. So it was great to be like back in the game and feeling that. But what the money goes towards is funding HIV/AIDS prevention, linkage to care. A lot of folks don't know that folks living with HIV/AIDS, they really struggle with dental issues, lots of, as one can imagine, systemic issues all over the body. So they hook you up with, medical care and dental care. A lot of folks, they've been harmed in such a way that they can't work or, they have limited working or work needs, mental health needs. And Colorado Health Network really helps kind of bridge that gap for everybody who needs it. It's like a truly vital service in the community. I think we're living in like the great medical age where there's a pill for everything. And now that there's a pill for HIV/AIDS prevention, it's kind of like, okay, well, nobody really cares anymore. There's a pill for that. And so we're really actively fighting against that mentality because there's so much work that needs to be done, not just in our communities, but globally. It remains a huge problem. And I'm super proud to even be associated with the Festival for Life. Next year is going to be massive.
And you're going to head that up as the organizer again?
I mean, I hate to speak out of turn, but if they'll have me back, then for sure. If you guys are listening, hire me again. I'd love that. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
It's really profound. It was meaningful to be a part of.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. We talked a little bit throughout the podcast as far as like goals. Have you always been a goal setter?
100%. Yeah. I have like weekly goals, monthly goals, yearly goals, 3-year goals, 5-year goals. I mean, it never ends. There has to be some sort of focus for me.
So what are some of your short-term goals? And we talked about, getting involved with some kind of brand, but some of your long-term goals as well.
Yeah. I have this vision in my head and it just like, it's so tangible that I know it's going to happen. I literally want my own Studio 54. Like I want a warehouse and in the front of the warehouse is going to be my showroom and there'll be all the merch and all the art on the walls. Like it'll be really big, beautiful windows. Like I'm telling you guys, I can see this in my head. And then in the back will be, the manufacturing production space where I can make my work and nobody's bugging me, but I'm close enough to the front that if somebody has a question, all that stuff. But then second floor would be like a flex space, live work. If I'm working on a big project and I need to sleep on my couch or something, then there's that. And then the third floor is like this event space, outdoor upstairs event space, so that it kind of combines all three of my interests in one, where like I can be working downstairs and renting out the rooftop to somebody who wants to have a party, or I can be hosting an art show on the rooftop and I can give people studio tours. Like, it's just like, I want this incredible live, work, Studio 54, party, make, creative space. It's like, I want it within 5 years.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I can envision that. That sounds like a great goal to me. So
yeah, for sure.
Best of luck. I hope that comes to fruition.
Thanks. Me too.
What do you consider your greatest achievement?
Believing in myself. Yeah.
Did it take a while to get there?
Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, a really long time. I don't know. I mean, maybe everybody feels that way, but I really feel like I had an uneasy relationship with myself for way, way too long. I made it way harder for myself than I have to be. And now I feel like so blessed and grateful for like this amazing life that I have, this amazing partner that I have, this like business that like, it isn't where I want it to be, but it will never be. And I'm so like incredibly blessed to be able to like do what I do and just be who I am. Like there's this overwhelming sense of gratitude. And I think being able to finally appreciate everything about me and the life that I have is probably my greatest achievement.
What is your favorite journey?
Wait, my favorite journey?
Yeah.
Ooh, wait, literal, metaphysical.
Whatever, wherever you want to take that.
Oh, okay. Greatest journey, probably the journey through sobriety. I have been like cocaine free for almost 4 years, give or take some time. I still drink, of course, stoner. We talked about that already, but in terms of getting that out of my life and just not messing with that anymore, it's been the greatest journey. And I think it's been so great because it's a journey I can share. When I was in crisis, I had to turn to people who could guide me and who had advice and wisdom for me. And now it's so awesome to have the privilege of like being that person that other people turn to. And they're like, dude, I'm struggling. I just need to talk. Or, you've already been through this. What's your advice? It's like such a privilege to be able to do that.
Yeah. Congratulations on your sobriety from cocaine. That's a hard one, man.
Hunter S. Thompson, it's a hell of a drug.
Anything else that you want to talk about, that you want to promote? Anything that you have coming up? Any exhibitions? Any events that you want to talk about?
Well, I would say to everybody, give me a follow on Instagram and you can keep track of the Sour Cute Dark Parade collection that's coming out. Really not rushing this one. I want to give it time to like live and breathe. So follow along online until it has a real release date. I would love to invite everybody to the upcoming Envision You annual art show fundraiser that I'm hosting. Every year I curate that and we raise about $55,000 for mental health, linkage to care, 24/7 counseling through an app that's free to use, as well as mental health and substance abuse disorder, like training for like professionals. So helping therapy professionals or people in, the mental health industry better relate to queer patients or LGBTQ plus identified patients. That is on Wednesday, September 27th this month. If you can't attend, then you can make a donation at envision-u.org. And I think just looking forward to, what the end of this year holds. I've kind of left it very open and free form for the last half of this year, just to see kind of what happens. Let it ride.
Right on.
I got one last question that I'll ask is, as an artist, what does it mean to be bold?
Ooh, damn. Okay. Thanks. What does it mean to be bold? I think it means being deaf to external input. I'm not going to use like the march to your own drum platitude, but very much like the people we remember the most are the ones who are most iconoclastic in their time. And to be bold as an artist is probably to be authentic and true to yourself in spite of criticism, critics, external pressure, people who just don't understand. You really have to show up for yourself, like whether anybody else is going to show up or not. I think that's the meaning of being bold.
Love it. That's a great answer. Christopher, this has been just obviously a learning experience and a coaching experience from your perspective. But thank you so much. It's been a wonderful night. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and we went into some great places that I always love, the rabbit holes, and we had the opportunity to go down a number of them. So thank you for taking, almost 3 hours of your time and spending it with us. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. This has been super fun. I had a great laugh. I love this.
Good.
And my last question for you, we talked about art is war, but what I want to ask you is, do you have a mantra or motto that you live by?
I don't know. I think the sticky note on my computer right now says determination always wins the day. That one, it's like a little orange sticky note. I have a new sticky note like every couple of months right in front of my face on my computer. And I think right now it's determination always wins.
That is perfect. And I think you embody that. So thank you. I second what Wes said. We say it all the time on the podcast that time is the most precious thing that we have. So I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your evening away from your partner and spending it with us and having just a really lovely and educational conversation. It was fantastic.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Let's do it again soon. I know you both have homework that we've assigned to follow up on. So
yeah, I
really appreciate this time we got to share together, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, remember to follow Christopher on Instagram at christopher.lafleur.arts and check out Christopher's work at his website, christopherlafleurarts.com. You can find all this information and more in this week's episode notes. For the Tenant Podcast, I'm Todd Pearson.
And I'm Wes Brown. Have a great week.
Okay, so I'll see you later, huh? I'll give you a call.